Chapter 304. After eating the barbecue, the sun was immersed in the sea. The four of them came out of the water and went to the bathroom to take a shower and change clothes. After a while, Mrs. Kujo came out in thin casual clothes. When she saw Toru Watanabe washing the dishes, she said, "The ship will dock tomorrow. Someone will come and take care of these things. It's okay. I'm used to it." "It's up to you." Mrs. Kujo walked to the kitchen counter. "Boss, please give me a glass of whiskey with ice." "Wait a moment, madam." Toru Watanabe washed his hands, poured her a glass, and added ice. Mrs. Kujo thanked him in the tone of a guest. She picked up the glass and sipped it. The night wind could blow here. Toru Watanabe could smell the fragrance of her body after her shower. Mrs. Kujo took a sip and looked at Toru Watanabe. "You're alone. You didn't hire a nanny?" "I didn't have money before. Now I have money, but I didn't think of hiring a nanny." "You wash the clothes alone? You don't think I squat there and use a washboard, do you?" "I throw them into the washing machine and take them out to dry when it's time." "Washboard?" Mrs. Kujo asked curiously. "I've heard of it. What does it look like?" "Waves." Mrs. Kujo drank as she imagined a washboard that looked like waves. "Do you wash the dishes yourself, mop the floor yourself, and cook all the food yourself?" she asked again. "Occasionally, a convenience store lunchbox." The two of them stopped talking. Toru Watanabe washed the dishes silently. Mrs. Kujo drank for a while at the kitchen counter and turned on the record player. The melody of 500 Miles sounded in the cabin. Mrs. Kujo sat back and said with a smile, "I like this song very much. It reminds me of when I was young in Kyoto. When you sang this song this afternoon, I almost fell in love with you." "Fell in love with a farmer's boy who sells barbecue and washes dishes?" Toru Watanabe laughed. "That's enough." Mrs. Kujo smiled. "Barbecue is delicious and can earn money to support the family. Washing dishes proves that you don't hate housework." She shook the wine glass, and the ice cube swayed back and forth inside, making a crisp sound. There were a few times when the ice cubes looked as if they were about to fly out, but inconceivably fell back into the glass. Before 500 Miles finished playing, Mrs. Kiyono and Miki Kujo came upstairs after taking a shower. Mrs. Kiyono was wearing the same thin casual clothes as Mrs. Kujo. She looked very cool. Miki Kutai was wearing Toru Watanabe's shirt. Her hot pants like pajamas were hidden under the shirt. "The bar is open for business. What would you two like to order?" Toru Watanabe's gaze fell on the 9 beautiful women's thighs that were exposed from under their shirts. "Beer, thank you." Mrs. Kiyono sat down next to Mrs. Kujo. Toru Watanabe took a glass and poured beer into it. The delicate and transparent glass was filled with a golden liquid. Bubbles continuously rose from the bottom of the glass, forming dense white bubbles on the surface. "It looks delicious." Mrs. Seno gave him face and complimented him. "Thank you." Toru Watanabe looked at Miki Kujo on the other side of Mrs. Kujo. "My Miki, what would you like to drink?" "Milk." "Wait a moment. Is the bar selling milk?" Mrs. Kiyono asked with a smile. "The bar is a joke." Toru Watanabe turned his back to them and took out milk from the fridge. "Actually, this is Mickey's and my love nest. The table is just a kitchen counter. Unmarried cohabitation without approval," Mrs. Kujo said as she drank the beer. Miki Kujo drank a few mouthfuls of milk. Rin Kiyono came up to them while singing, "Now I'm in rags, still nameless." "You've been soaking for a long time, little Rin," Mrs. Kujo greeted. "It's troublesome to take care of your hair." Toru Watanabe guessed her answer. "I haven't been soaking for long. It takes time to take care of my hair." Rin Kiyono first went to the table to get the book Blue Planet 2, and then sat in front of the bar. "A glass of watermelon juice." She opened the book and said, "This is a bar, Miss Rin Kiyono." Toru Watanabe reminded her in a bar waiter tone. Rin Kiyono didn't speak and had already started reading the book. "Don't do it again." Toru Watanabe took a watermelon, cut it into pieces, and divided it into 2 portions. One portion was placed on the bar for them to eat, and the other portion was thrown into the juice machine. Mrs. Kiyono looked at her daughter's long hair and said, "Do you want to try short hair?" "No, I like long hair." Miki Kujo looked at Rin Kiyono across the two ladies, and her eyes fell on the snow-white shoulders. Rin Kiyono was wearing pajamas with a collar that slid down to her shoulders. This made her look pure, sexy, and a little homely. "Will you wear such clothes?" Miki Kujo asked with a sneer. "Mother prepared it," Rin Kiyono answered without looking up. "Only this one? Do I need your permission to wear what I wear?" Rin Kiyono looked at Miki Kujo. Mrs. Kujo smiled and said to her daughter, "I've seen all kinds of swimsuits during the day. Your shoulders don't make a difference. A swimsuit is a swimsuit. If you wear it like this, I'm afraid you're thinking of seducing people," Miki Kujo said. "Okay, juice." Toru Watanabe put the glass in front of Rin Kiyono, and suddenly took it back. "I almost forgot." He threw a piece of ice into the glass. The juice spilled out and spilled on the cabinet with the bottom of the glass as the center. "Superfluous." Rin Kiyono glanced at it. "Everyone else is just right. You're the only one who's full." Toru Watanabe wiped the glass clean and handed it to her. "Like Miki classmate said, you were seduced by my shoulders? You forgot to put the ice first? At least you have some evidence when you're slandering me. I'm not interested in your shoulders. Besides, as a professional bartender, which one of you doesn't wipe the table? Ice cubes and juice? A professional bartender?" Rin Kiyono sneered. Toru Watanabe ignored her. While wiping the table, he said to Mrs. Kujo, "Miss Shinji, do you want more?" Mrs. Kujo put the glass in front of him. "Bartender at sea whiskey cocktail." "Actually, I'm a pianist at sea," Toru Watanabe said politely. "The bartender went on a date with the mermaid, and asked me to take over for the time being. Look at Miki. She's drinking milk. You know what's going on now." Mrs. Kujo laughed and said lazily, "Okay, pianist. But before you play the piano, can you make me a cocktail?" "Of course. Just add some orange juice, soda water, lemonade, or any other sweet wine or drink. As long as it's drinkable, it's fine. I want to try a cocktail made by someone who doesn't know anything." "Then it might not be drinkable. The heir of the Kujo family colludes with his son-in-law to murder the head of the Kujo family on the Pacific Ocean," Mrs. Kiyono said with a smile. "Use this as the headline for tomorrow's newspaper." Toru Watanabe began to mix the cocktail. He added it according to his mood. The final cocktail had a strange color. "Kun Watanabe, I'm not joking. I really suspect that you're going to murder me." Mrs. Kujo looked at the cocktail in front of her. Miki Kujo looked at the cocktail and smiled. "Mother, I don't think you should drink it." Even Rin Kiyono raised her head and looked at the cocktail. "I already said that I'm a pianist at sea, not a bartender," Toru Watanabe said. "Try it first." Mrs. Kujo reached for the cocktail. "Wait a moment." Toru Watanabe stopped her. He put a cherry on top with a toothpick and threw in a mint. "It's done." "It looks like it." Miki Kujo nodded. The four of them watched Mrs. Kujo take a sip. "How is it?" Mrs. Kiyono asked. Mrs. Kujo didn't say anything. She ate the cherry on the toothpick and pointed at the grand piano in the corner with the toothpick. "Pianist at sea, go. That's where you belong." Miki Kujo and Mrs. Kiyono laughed. Seino Rin's eyes were still on the book as a smile appeared on his face. Yes, yes. Toru Watanabe wiped his hands and left the bar. "I was born on a ship. How can I not know how to play the piano? Is there a connection between the two?" Rin Kiyono said. "Those born on a ship are more sailors." "Just wait and see." Toru Watanabe sat down, lifted the piano cover, and played with his fingers. He didn't look like a pianist, but a strong sailor who was ready to fight a sea monster. "My other self, it's your turn. Go." Player used 5,000 points to purchase the right to master piano. 5,000 points. Player received master piano. "Someone please turn off 500 miles. Hurry up, it's hurting my ears." Toru Watanabe pointed at the record player, looking like an artist who didn't care about status. Mrs. Kujo was about to get up, but Miki Kujo stood up before her. She held a glass of milk, walked with her beautiful legs, and turned off the record player. Then she sat on the piano bench. "Play, pianist who was born on the sea." "Shoo." Toru Watanabe pressed his finger on her lips. When only the sound of the waves and the wind was left in the world, Toru Watanabe touched the piano keys with the finger that touched Miki Kujo's lips. Someone seemed to have climbed onto the deck and walked into the cabin. It was a seaweed girl. She found a place to sit down and played with the small harp in her hand. Someone else came. It was a conch. It looked around the cabin, took off the conch on its back, and blew on it with the sound of the sea breeze. A large group of whales with impressive lung capacity walked in. Their goal was accurate. They quickly occupied the bow of the ship, lined up neatly, inhaled and breathed. Like a choir, they sang a hymn to the sea. There were more and more sea creatures. Some accompanied the music, some danced, and some listened. In the middle of the night, all the lights were turned on. The yacht was dazzling, as exquisite as a ball. It was as if a banquet was held all the time. The beautiful sound of the piano merged with the sea and the Milky Way. The yacht leisurely wandered in the beautiful world, waiting for the tide to send it to where it should go. Toru Watanabe's fingers let go of the piano keys. The cabin was still filled with the gentle and beautiful sound. The yacht fell into silence. The only 4 audience members seemed to have become stone statues of mermaids at the bottom of the sea, quietly staring at the pianist. Clap, clap. Mrs. Kujo clapped. The more terrible your whiskey is, the more beautiful your piano is. Everyone who was immersed in the sound of the piano just now laughed. Forget about that damn whiskey. Let me play for you again. Yes, sir. Toru Watanabe looked at Miki Kujo. Together? What do you want to play? Miki Kujo put down the milk cup and stretched her slender fingers. A march for endless dreams. I want to hear your oboe. Any time is fine. The two of them pressed the piano keys. It wasn't until late at night that the concert ended. Not only Toru Watanabe, but everyone else also went on stage to perform. All kinds of instruments were at their fingertips, and even the worst was at the elite level. Of course, there was also supper and a variety of cocktails. When he returned to the bedroom and closed the door, Miki Kujo hugged him and gave him her tongue. Toru Watanabe was already intoxicated. When they were in the living room of the cabin, he wanted to press her against the bar and invade her from behind. After everything was over, Miki Kujo fell into a deep sleep. Toru Watanabe, who never sleeps, couldn't fall asleep because it was the first time he slept on a boat. He gently got out of bed, put on a jacket, and went to the second floor. There was no one in the bar, and there were glasses filled with a mess of drinks on the bar. Toru Watanabe poured out all the drinks and washed them one by one. You didn't sleep? Rin Kiyono's figure emerged from the stairs. I'm not used to yachts. This is the first time I've been on a boat in my life. Toru Watanabe glanced at her and continued to wash. Rin Kiyono walked over and stood next to him. After he finished washing one, he dried it with a towel. You can't sleep because it's the first time you slept outside? Toru Watanabe asked. Yeah. The two of them stopped talking. One washed, the other dried. After they finished washing, Rin Kiyono handed a towel to Toru Watanabe. Go back to sleep? She looked at Toru Watanabe wiping his hands. I'm not sleepy. You can go back. I'm not sleepy either. Toru Watanabe looked at her snow-white shoulders exposed from the collar of her shirt. His heart was beating fast. Let's go outside. He put down the towel. Let's go to the third floor and enjoy the night breeze. The two of them cut a plate of fruit, took some pistachios and other snacks, and went to the balcony. The yacht moved slowly at the speed of a person walking. The night breeze was neither slow nor fast. They couldn't see the moon, the sky was full of stars, and it was quiet all around. I have the illusion that we're the only ones left in the world. Rin Kiyono's tone was a bit relaxed. The human world turned into zombies, and the 5 of us are the last survivors? Toru Watanabe put the fruit on the table. That's not bad. Rin Kiyono put the snacks next to the fruit. The two of them sat side by side on the chairs, facing the south and looking at the night sky. The boundless Milky Way hung in front of their eyes, dotted with stars, like a clear river. The sea, the Milky Way. The two were separated by a distance of 30 kilometers, the distance between heaven and earth, and the endless universe. It seemed that there was no connection, but the starlight of the Milky Way sprinkled over the sea. And there was also the shadow of the Milky Way in the depths of the sea. Shooting stars. Rin Kiyono looked at the night sky. I see them, Toru Watanabe said. 1, 2, 3, a total of 3 shooting stars. Did you make a wish? Rin Kiyono asked. Do you also believe in such legends? No, but whether I made a wish or not has nothing to do with whether I believe in it or not. That makes sense. Toru Watanabe nodded. I didn't make a wish, but I did want to do something. Tell me about it. Far away, I want you two to reconcile. Near, I want to kiss your shoulder. Rin Kiyono's hair was slightly blown up, and a few strands of hair ran over her lips. She pushed away the naughty strands of hair and said, Don't say such unrealistic things all day long. What about touching your leg? Besides that, haven't you thought of anything else? Not even. Okay, then I'll hug you. I can't lower the price anymore. This price is already very low. Rin Kiyono sighed softly. This afternoon, not to mention kissing my shoulder or hugging me. Even if you kissed me, I wouldn't refuse. She looked down at the undulating waves. It was a beautiful moment. Toru Watanabe looked up at the bright Milky Way. If that was the first time we met, we would definitely have fallen in love at first sight. I don't know. I'm not someone who falls in love at first sight. Then why don't you know? Because when I looked at you, I really did like you, but I don't know how I would feel if I met you for the first time. It's okay, we'll fall in love no matter what. Okay. At 3 o'clock, the night wind began to cool down. Toru Watanabe stood up. Let's go back. Wait a moment. What's wrong? Toru Watanabe turned to look at her. Your dream. You won't be willing to not break up with Mickey and the others, right? Yeah. So you want to persuade me to give up? Just for a moment. Rin Kiyono put her hands on her chest uneasily and shyly. I can pretend that they don't exist. Toru Watanabe forgot to breathe and looked at her quietly. The flowers were blooming, the birds were chirping, the smell of the tide, the radiance of the Milky Way, finally touched that unattainable dream. Sparse and indistinct shadows merged into a ball. On the undulating waves of the sea, their figures were reflected in the Milky Way. Chapter 305. July 30th, a sunny day. Kiyono Yuko got up early and put on her clothes, careful not to wake Kujo Masako up. She walked out of the door and went to the second floor. The clean kitchen table surprised her. After I went to bed last night, Watanabe cleaned up this place again? According to the initial agreement, she was in charge of 3 meals. The barbecue last night was an accident. Before coming up, she was in charge of cooking, and Kujo Masako was in charge of driving the yacht. Who would have thought that after coming up, everything would be left to Toru Watanabe? They couldn't be blamed. After all, Toru Watanabe was good at everything. Baseball, cooking, music, and his grades were the best in the country. He was very good at learning and could learn everything quickly. Kiyono Yuko didn't agree with her daughter's suggestion to let Toru Watanabe manage Kiyono's family. At first, she just compromised with her daughter and gave her half a year. Now, although she didn't know if Toru Watanabe had the ability to manage a business, it was worth looking forward to. Thinking about these things, she made a cup of morning coffee for herself. Breakfast could be taken slowly since it was still early before the other 4 woke up. With the fragrant coffee, Kiyono Yuko walked out of the living room and prepared to go to the bow deck to enjoy the sea breeze. In summer, the sun at 6 or 7 in the morning was hot enough to make people sweat, but it was still cool around 5. The sea breeze blew her short hair, caressed her collarbone, and poured into her clothes. It was very pleasant. In the undulating sea, the sound of swimming could be heard. Kiyono Yuko poked her head out and saw Toru Watanabe swimming at the same speed as the yacht. Did you fall? She asked. Morning swim. Toru Watanabe answered while swimming. Kiyono Yuko stirred the coffee and occasionally took a sip, casually watching Toru Watanabe swim. He floated on the surface of the water, and his slender and powerful arms paddled the water with an imposing aura. After watching for a full 10 minutes, he finished the coffee, but his swimming speed didn't slow down. Your stamina is really good. As she spoke, she left the side of the boat, placed the coffee cup on the table, and lay down on the chair under the large umbrella. Looking up at the blue sky, there were white cumulus clouds that looked like an ink painting. After Toru Watanabe finished his swim, he would go and make breakfast, he thought lazily. After a long time, but also like a short time, the sound of swimming in his ears disappeared. Kiyono sat up and returned to the cabin. She took a bath towel and walked to the stern of the boat. After waiting for a while, he didn't see Toru Watanabe board the ship. Could it be that his leg cramped and he drowned? In the moment of panic, a head popped out of the water. "You scared me." Kiyono's tone carried a trace of complaint. "Haha, sorry." Toru Watanabe climbed onto the deck with a smile. "I want to try diving." "I thought you drowned and sank into the sea." Kiyono handed him a towel. "How was diving?" "I couldn't hear anything." There was an incredible tranquility. Looking up from the sea, the surface of the water swayed and sparkled. Kiyono wasn't listening carefully. Her attention was taken away by Toru Watanabe's action of wiping the water. When swimming yesterday, Toru Watanabe had been wearing a short-sleeved shirt and beach pants. She didn't pay much attention to it, but today he only wore swimming trunks. When wearing clothes, he looked thin and tall, but when he took off his clothes, he was very strong. His muscles were beautiful, his legs were slender, and his figure was breathtaking. "I'll take a shower first, and then I'll make breakfast for you." Toru Watanabe wiped his ears and pushed his bangs to the back. The action of brushing his hair was so natural that it made her dizzy. "Okay, thank you, Koen Watanabe. I didn't do anything on this trip, so I had to do something." "So that's what you're thinking." Kiyono smiled. "I thought you were deliberately showing off in front of us." "Maybe that's what I'm thinking subconsciously." Toru Watanabe disappeared from the deck and went back to the bedroom on the first floor. Kiyono looked at the watermark on the deck and suddenly became enthusiastic about her daughter and Toru Watanabe being together. Women also liked beauty. Judging from the fact that most of the fans were women, they might be even more lecherous than men. Not to mention his outstanding brain, ability, and character, Toru Watanabe was handsome and had such a good figure. There was no reason not to let her daughter sleep with him. "I have to create an opportunity for Ling," Kiyono thought and walked into the cabin. Mrs. Kujo was the third to get up and sat at the dining table to eat breakfast. "Good morning." Rin Kiyono was the fourth to appear in the living room. "It's rare to see little Ling sleeping in," Mrs. Kujo said. "Come and have breakfast. Your mother and Koen Watanabe made it." Rin Kiyono sat at the dining table. A tall glass was placed in the middle of the white tablecloth. The glass was filled with forget-me-nots cut from the garden yesterday. The blue corolla was small and beautiful, reminding people of the fields full of wildflowers in the countryside. "What do you want to eat?" Kiyono asked. "Toast. Rice. Is there soup?" Rin Kiyono asked. "Yes." "Then rice it is." "A wise choice," Toru Watanabe said. "Looks like the rice was made by someone. It's just simple cooking rice and they're so proud of it. Poor life. Today's rice is extraordinary," Toru Watanabe deliberately mystified. "I learned from Auntie Yuzi and soaked the rice for 20 minutes in advance. After soaking, the rice grains fully absorb the water. The rice steamed this way is plump and more fluffy, sweet, and helpful for digestion. Secondly, the rice contains a substance called phytic acid." Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe sympathetically. "Okay, I know you know." Toru Watanabe took a bite of a well-done fried egg. Rin Kiyono frowned slightly. As a half-acquaintance, it was impossible for her to turn a blind eye to such a scene. This matter could not be delayed. She had to correct him before the two of them got together. In a good mood, Rin Kiyono drank a mouthful of miso soup sprinkled with some chopped green onions. She put down the soup bowl, picked up a small mouthful of rice with her chopsticks, and elegantly put it into her mouth. As she chewed carefully, a faint sweetness spread in her mouth. Today's rice was better than usual. After the two ladies finished their breakfast, they pulled Rin Kiyono to the stern of the yacht to go wakeboard surfing. Toru Watanabe stayed at the helm, keeping the yacht at a speed that was enough to create waves. At the same time, he made sure that if someone failed to surf, he would slow down the yacht, so that the person would not be left in the Pacific Ocean. Opening the windows and enjoying the sea breeze, driving the yacht was a pleasant thing. From the walkie-talkie, there was a voice. Watanabe. Slow down, Yuko is going to be washed away. Koen Watanabe. Rin is gone. Amazing, Rin stood up on the surfboard. Ah. Slow down. She fell. From the above information, Mrs. Kujo knew how to surf, but Kiyono and her daughter did not. Why does Mrs. Kiyono keep reporting Rin Kiyono's learning progress? Did she know about what happened last night? I didn't hear any footsteps. Toru Watanabe thought absent-mindedly and opened the system. Temporary event reward. Gift of the Sea +1*1. Player received mastery level surfing. Player received mastery level sea fishing. Player received mastery level diving. Player's special skill beginner level command has been strengthened. You can command sea creatures with intelligence 1 to 3, and other creatures with intelligence 1 to 2. Player received shipwreck map, *1. There was no reward upgrade this time. Would he still hug her last night? Yes. In addition, there was no daylight under the setting sun. If it wasn't under the empty starry sky, surrounded by the vast ocean, maybe he wouldn't hug her. The good-for-nothing Toru Watanabe, who couldn't resist the temptation of Rin Kiyono. Toru Watanabe took out the shipwreck map. It turned out to be a book named 116 Boxes of Jewelry, 2 tons of silver, 1 ton of gold. Opening the book, the opening read. This is the greatest treasure of the Spanish royal family. An ancient ship without any reputation and no one knows about it. Toru Watanabe read it as a story. Ah. Kujio Miki yawned as she came up. You're up? Toru Watanabe put down the book and walked to the kitchen table. I'll heat up your meal. No need. Miki Kujo sat down at the table. I'll eat toast. Well, let me know if you need anything. Toru Watanabe sat back and picked up the book to continue reading. Not only was there an introduction to the most precious items in the shipwreck, but there was also the story behind these items, this year's market valuation, and so on. With this book, the only thing to do was probably salvage. As for other things, such as how to ensure that the treasure won't be damaged when salvaging, where to sell it at a high price, it was all written clearly. Toru Watanabe looked at a crown, which introduced its owner, a princess, love history. Miki Kujo spread sauce on the toast with a knife, then took a glass of milk, and walked to Toru Watanabe. Leaning on his shoulder, she ate a bite of toast, drank a sip of milk, and looked at the book. It's rare to see you reading dirty books. This is history, you don't understand. Toru Watanabe said. Slow down. Slow down. The radio screamed. Toru Watanabe stopped the yacht. What are they doing? Miki Kujo looked at the radio. Surfing. Do you want to go play after eating? No. Miki Kujo gave the toast she ate to Toru Watanabe. Help me cut my toenails later. Okay. Toru Watanabe took a bite of the toast and accelerated the yacht. The toast crumbs fell on the title page of 116 Boxes of Jewelry, 2 tons of silver, 1 ton of gold. With the toast in his mouth, he held the book upright and shook it to let the crumbs fall out. After reading for a while, Miki Kujo said, It's quite realistic. Is it really a shipwreck? It should be. Which country salvaged it? Not yet, it's still underwater. Miki Kujo drank a sip of milk. Right. Toru Watanabe looked up. Don't throw this book away for me. The books he put in Kamibocho were always immediately disposed of by Miki Kujo. It's fine as long as it's not an old book. Miki Kujo put the empty cup on the bridge. In June next year, I'll recycle it and give it to Rin Kiyono as a birthday present. You're so generous. Toru Watanabe praised. Giving her an old book is already giving her face. If it weren't for the relationship between our mothers, I'd give her rotten dolphins for her birthday every year. Then she'll definitely give you shark dung. She's such a disgusting person. Ignoring your boyfriend's identity, I think you two are equally disgusting. Rotten dolphins are no better. Miki Kujo patted his shoulder. Go get the nail clippers. Where? Toru Watanabe closed the book and put it next to the cup of milk. Toru Watanabe brought the nail clippers. Miki Kujo sat on the bridge and put her feet in his arms. One by one, he trimmed the toes and opened the book, 116 Boxes of Jewelry, 2 tons of silver, 1 ton of gold, to pick up the fallen nails. Toru Watanabe cut Miki Kujo's nails for a year. His skills were superb, and the nails were neat and beautiful. At 9:30, the sun became fierce, and the 3 people at the back of the boat returned. Rin Kiyono, who changed into a white dress, walked into the living room and saw the book on the bridge. "Whose is it?" she asked. "Watanabe's." Miki Kujo said. Rin Kiyono reached out to take it. Miki Kujo sneered. "You don't want to read your own book, but want to read my boyfriend's?" "I finished reading Blue Planet too," Rin Kiyono said as she flipped through the book. "Watanabe-san, you can take it and we'll trade. According to the price, I can buy 5 or 6 of your books." "It's so expensive," Toru Watanabe said. Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe, then looked at the book. At this time, Miki Kujo reached out to grab less than 116 boxes of jewelry, 2 tons of silver, 1 ton of gold. Rin Kiyono's physical strength was weak, but her reflexes were fast and she easily dodged. She took the book and walked to the sofa. Under the sunlight outside the window, she started reading from the first page. Miki Kujo wasn't angry. She smiled and whispered to Toru Watanabe. "Let her smell my toenails. I smell them every day. There's no stench. It won't disgust her." The same thing has different effects on different people. Miki Kujo put her smooth and delicate foot under Toru Watanabe's shirt and teased his lower abdomen. "There's someone here." Toru Watanabe covered it with his shirt so that no one could see. Rin Kiyono read the book. The 2 of them flirted. The 2 ladies drank wine and talked about women's topics. The yacht moved at full speed, riding the wind and breaking the waves. They arrived at Osaka harbor at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. As soon as the yacht docked, a group of people who had been waiting for a long time rushed up. Mrs. Kiyono simply dealt with these people. Mrs. Kujo took a car key from a servant. "Let's go." She walked towards a convertible Bentley. "I'll take you for a ride in Osaka." Mrs. Kujo drove, while Mrs. Kiyono sat in the passenger seat. Toru Watanabe and the 2 ladies sat in the back. If Aonai Koizumi was the one driving in the front seat, and Mayasami was in the front passenger seat, the wind blowing in their face should be cooler. On the seaside road, which was like a tropical scenic spot, Mrs. Kujo wore sunglasses and her long hair fluttered. She didn't have the aura of a hard life. She was like a rich college girl full of vitality. When they turned into the city, Mrs. Kiyono turned around and said to the 3 of them, "Today and tomorrow we'll go to Osaka and Kyoto. On August 1st, we'll go to Karuizawa and stay there until school starts." "Well, what's wrong?" Mrs. Kiyono asked Toru Watanabe. "Nothing." As for Aona Koizumi, he could only wait until the Saturday and Sunday after school started. To make up for it, he had to spend more time with her in the future. When they arrived at the hotel, Toru Watanabe stood by the window with his phone in hand. He looked at the city hall and was about to call Aona Koizumi. "Hello, Watanabe." Her voice was full of tenderness and joy. Toru Watanabe wanted to say, "I miss you," but he swallowed it back and prepared to talk about something first. He told her that he had to stay in Karuizawa for a month, and that he could only go on a trip with her after school started. "I see." Aona Koizumi was slightly disappointed, but she quickly pulled herself together. "You're not lying to me, are you? Will you spend more time with me after school starts?" "Of course." After saying this, Toru Watanabe said, "Sensei, I miss you. It's only been 2 days." Her voice gradually became softer. "I miss you too." The 2 of them didn't speak. At this moment, silence connected them, and was far more intimate than any words. After the call with Aona Koizumi, he called Mayasahi. "I'll go to Karuizawa and run into Toru." After hearing Toru Watanabe's words, she said this directly. "Come over in mid-August. I'll find a chance to meet you." "Okay. About this, you can let Koizumi. Don't tell her. I'll be alone." "Okay." Toru Watanabe put down his phone, and was about to go to Miki Kujo's room to tell her. No matter what, if he told her in advance, she would agree, although she would be cynical. If he found a chance to sneak out, she would smile, but behind his back, she would definitely punish him horribly. Just as he was about to go out, His phone rang again. Mom. Toru Watanabe picked up the phone. How are you? I'm fine. Your dad is fine too. Watanabe replied and immediately said, Toru, Xiaolian is going to Tokyo tomorrow. Pick her up. Xiaolian? Tokyo? Yes. The school in the village will be abandoned next year. Anyway, she's going to leave the village to study in town, so she might as well go to Tokyo. You can ask Mickey or Lynn to help find a good primary school. No problem. Do you want to transfer schools this time? After this year, she'll live there for a month and see if she's used to it. Okay, tomorrow? Who's going to send her? She's alone. Alone? Toru Watanabe's voice became louder. Don't worry, we'll send her to the Shinkansen straight to Tokyo. Then, we'll ask the train attendant we know to take care of her, and ask her to hand Xiaolian over to you. That's good. I'm scared to death. I'll go to the station in advance so that Xiaolian's parents can rest assured. Okay, I'll give you the arrival time later. When Xiaolian goes to your place, remember to buy more delicious food. Of course. By the way, the school is abandoned. What about Lingzi and the others? Lingzi is going to teach in town. I'm really worried that she's not qualified enough. The others will transfer there together. That's good. After hanging up the phone, Toru Watanabe went directly to Kiyono's room. He must return to Tokyo before Xiaolian arrives tomorrow. Chapter 306. Leaving Morioka at 9:26, taking Falcon 12, they arrived in Tokyo at 11:44. On the first day of August, at the crowded station, Toru Watanabe raised his wrist and glanced at the mechanical beauty of the watch. He put down his arm, put his hands in his pockets, and focused on the ticket gate. The tourists coming and going, who were looking for their relatives and friends, and looking at the foreign land, always turned to him as if there was a gravitational force. His face was fair and handsome, and his legs were long and slender. In the vast sea of people he was like a spotlight. Some people began to look for the camera, subconsciously thinking that it was a film crew. Bold girls wanted to go forward, but after a few steps the boy glanced at them, and his insufferably arrogant eyes made them shrink back. Plus, the boy in front of them was always looking at his watch, even if he didn't show an anxious expression. They could see that he was waiting for someone. Because of all these reasons, Toru Watanabe only had to occasionally deal with some bold hot girls, lost female tourists, and tour groups that wanted to take photos with him. Although he was a handsome guy in Tokyo, becoming a landmark in Tokyo was too cheap for the city. At least he could be the spokesperson for Iwate Prefecture's buckwheat noodles. Toru Watanabe took a group photo with a group of elderly tour groups, and his mind was in a mess. The train arrived at the station on time. At 11:44, the station broadcast the arrival of Falcon 12. After a while in the crowd, Toru Watanabe saw a person dressed as a train attendant holding Xiaolian's hand. Xiaolian. He raised his hand. Everyone looked at him. On the contrary, Xiaolian, who was pulling a small suitcase and wearing a brand new dress, looked around and didn't raise her head. In her line of sight, there were probably only tourists' legs. When the train attendant bent down and said something to her, Xiaolian raised her head and looked at him in surprise. Then she pulled the small suitcase and ran to Toru Watanabe. Ache! Her empty hand clenched into a small fist. Shinkansen, so fast. So fast. Without waiting for Toru Watanabe to speak, she gasped, wiped her forehead, and said like a little adult. Tokyo so hot. Why are you running when it's hot? Toru Watanabe rubbed her little head. Are you Toru Watanabe-kun? The flight attendant walked over. I'll leave Xiaolian to you. Toru Watanabe quickly thanked him. Xiaolian also folded her hands in front of her and bowed. Thank you for taking care of me. The flight attendant looked at the well-behaved Xiaolian and smiled happily. She said to Toru Watanabe, when Xiaolian goes back, inform me in advance. I will send her back safely. Thank you very much. Toru Watanabe bowed again. I'll leave it to you when the time comes. Xiaolian also bowed. The stewardess said a few polite words and left immediately, because she had something to do. After watching the other party disappear into the ticket gate, Toru Watanabe turned to look at Xiaolian. Coming to Tokyo alone by car, You're already the most amazing elementary school student in Japan, Xiaolian. Ache, our goal is the whole world. Little Lien reprimanded. I forgot. Ache's memory is really bad, but I'll always remind you. Then I'll leave it to you. Toru Watanabe reached out to take the suitcase, but Xiaolian refused. Before coming out, my mom told me not to trouble Ache as much as possible. Is that so? Then give it to me when you can't carry it. Okay. Xiaolian nodded. Toru Watanabe took her other hand, and the two walked towards the exit of the station. The dress is very nice. This is a new dress. Is there anything you want to eat? Sushi. I thought you wanted to eat ice cream first. Xiaolian stopped and looked up at Toru Watanabe. Ice cream? Yes, ice cream. Not popsicles from the grocery store. Not popsicles from the grocery store. Xiaolian nodded slowly with a serious expression. I want to eat it. 10 minutes later, Toru Watanabe pulled the suitcase while Xiaolian held a bowl made of ice cream cones with both hands. There were 3 different colors of ice cream balls in the bowl, some fruit, and a transparent plastic spoon. Her eyes were shining as if she was looking at an incredible treasure. Tokyo, so amazing. This has nothing to do with whether it's Tokyo or not. Toru Watanabe took out his phone and took a picture of her. He sent the picture to the group chat. Xiaolian, I got it. Che, take good care of her. Remember to send more pictures. I'll send them to her mom. Watanabe's mom. Yes. Che, hurry up. Mickey. Coming. Che. After exiting the station, Xiaolian stared blankly at the tall buildings. But the next moment, she was dizzy from the scorching sun. And she looked at Toru Watanabe, not knowing what to do. I can only get used to it. Toru Watanabe expressed that there was nothing he could do. There was only the Teru Teru Bozu, that made honesty clear, and no hyacinth that prayed for rain. They sped up and got into the car that was waiting for them. The cold air made Xiaolian feel comfortable for a moment, and then she quickly greeted. Sister Rin, Sister Mickey. Hello, Xiaolian. Rin Kiyono returned the greeting. Miki Kujo nodded. And here. Toru Watanabe introduced the 2 people in the front seat. This is Sister Mickey's mom, Auntie Jinji, and this is Sister Rin's mom, Auntie Yuko. Xiaolian sat and bowed. Nice to meet you. I'm Xiaolian. Good child. Do you want to sit here? Kiyono Yuko turned around and smiled at Xiaolian. Xiaolian looked at her for a while, then turned to look at Toru Watanabe, and grabbed Toru Watanabe's sleeve with her hand that was not holding the ice cream. Very cute. Mrs. Kujo retracted her gaze from the rearview mirror and stepped on the accelerator. When the car passed by the Kokyo, Xiaolian forgot to eat the ice cream and put her face close to the car window. She looked out curiously, and when she could not see them, she turned her head back. Ache, that is. The Kokyo. Rin Kiyono answered on behalf of Toru Watanabe. Xiaolian, who is the current emperor? Naruhito. Xiaolian raised her hand and answered. What was the old name of Tokyo? Xiaolian put down her hand. Edo. Rin Kiyono said. In July of the 4th year of Keo, that is, in September 1868, it was renamed Tokyo. Remember it well, I'll test you when we come back. Xiaolian looked at Toru Watanabe. It's no use looking at him. If you can't answer, I'll scold him too. You're too nosy. Miki Kujo looked coldly at Rin Kiyono. I don't think it's nosy to exercise the right to educate my younger sister in advance. Rin Kiyono said calmly. Children should be educated from the beginning. Little Rin is actually an education-oriented mother. I'm a bit surprised. Kiyono turned around and said with a smile. What about Mickey? How do you plan to educate your children in the future? When it's time to study, I'll study hard, and when it's time to play, I'll play to my heart's content. Xiaolian. Kiyono showed a kind smile. Which sister's education method do you like? Xiaolian turned her head to look at Toru Watanabe. I have to tell Mom that I picked up Xiaolian. Toru Watanabe took out his phone. You already told her. Rin Kiyono said lightly. It seems that my memory is really bad. Toru Watanabe put away his phone. Xiaolian, the ice cream is melting, hurry up and eat it. Xiaolian was startled. It almost went to waste. She obediently lowered her head and spooned the ice cream into her mouth. Miki Kujo pinched Toru Watanabe's thigh. I really don't know about education methods. Toru Watanabe cried out. The two mothers in the front seat laughed happily. The car left the Senma district and drove out of Tokyo into Saitama Prefecture. The scenery became more and more rural. Xiaolian leaned against the window and finally turned her head. She asked Toru Watanabe, Ache, when can we see the Tokyo Tower? Tokyo Tower? Toru Watanabe was stunned. I forgot to tell Xiaolian that we're going to a place called Karuizawa for the summer, and will return to Tokyo at the end of the month. Xiaolian opened her mouth and looked at him in disbelief. Ache, this is wrong. Mom told me to adapt to life in Tokyo. She corrected him loudly. Karuizawa is Tokyo's back garden. Living there is actually a part of your future life in Tokyo, so it's part of adapting to life in Tokyo. Toru Watanabe said. Xiaolian's eyes widened. Really? It's fake. Rin Kiyono said. But there's no need to adapt to Tokyo in August. Xiaolian, you'll live with your brother in the future, so you won't stay in Tokyo during this time. I stayed in Tokyo last year. Toru Watanabe said. Then when the time comes, we'll take Xiaolian out to play. Mrs. Kiyono said with a smile. Russia's St. Petersburg, Denmark's Copenhagen, Austria's Vienna, France's Paris. Xiaolian, where do you want to go? Ache. Xiaolian looked at Toru Watanabe again. If you don't want to go, then stay in Tokyo with your brother to enjoy the air conditioning. Xiaolian nodded. I'll stay with Ache. Toru Watanabe patted her little head. Xiaolian, let me test you again. Why did my mother say these places? The hint is to avoid the hot Tokyo. Wow, little Rin is really strict. Kiyono was shocked exaggeratedly. The next generation of Kiyono's family will be elites. Mrs. Kujo also made fun of Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono didn't care. She looked at Xiaolian, and Xiaolian also looked at her. It took 3 hours to drive from Tokyo Station to Karuizawa. She didn't know how much Xiaolian learned during this time. At an altitude of 1,000 meters, even if it's midsummer, because it's surrounded by Mount Asama, Mount Biku, Mount Hibos and other mountain peaks, it doesn't feel hot at all. Karuizawa is amazing. At some point, Xiaolian had run between Rin Kiyono and Miki Kujo. We're here. Mrs. Kujo parked the car in the open space of a forest villa. The larch and birch trees were lush, and they could hear the clear chirping of birds and the flowing of the stream. Sunlight fell from the green leaves, forming a light beam. Xiaolian subconsciously reached out her hand to touch the sunlight. Although it was a forest, it was different from the exquisiteness of Karuizawa village. Needless to say, it was obviously the noon of August 1st, but it was cool and pleasant. It was not hot, but at the same time, it allowed people to enjoy the fun of midsummer. This was a summer resort. Toru Watanabe looked at the single-family villa in front of him. It had a terrace, and on the terrace, there were rattan tables and rattan chairs for drinking coffee and eating. If I knew Xiaolian was coming, I would have chosen the lakeside villa. Kiyono said. The reason why they chose the forest villa was that before they came here, they had been in the Pacific Ocean and were tired of looking at the sea. Lake. Xiaolian came back to her senses and looked at her expectantly. Auntie will take you to swim and play golf later, okay? It's still too early to play golf. Toru Watanabe said. I want to go swimming. Xiaolian tiptoed and raised her hand as high as she could. Let's go swimming. Seino Yuko gave her a high five. Before that, let's go shopping first. Rin Kiyono crossed her arms and said, Don't forget that we didn't let the servants prepare anything this time. Xiaolian dropped her hand in disappointment. Seino Yuko grabbed her slender wrist that was about to go down and raised it up again. Go buy swimming rings, she shouted. Xiaolian raised her head, and her eyes were gradually filled with light. Go buy swimming rings. She also shouted happily. Xiaolian is so cute, be my daughter. Kiyono hugged Xiaolian and rubbed her face against Xiaolian's. The flesh on Xiaolian's face was pressed down, and she reached out to grab Toru Watanabe's trousers. Mrs. Kujo looked at this scene and said to Miki Kujo, I thought I was very young, but after seeing Xiaolian, I suddenly want grandchildren. I'll be 17 in a month, Miki Kujo said. I really am very young. Mrs. Kujo stroked her face and said. Miki Kujo was too lazy to pay attention to her mother, and dialed a number. Send 5 adult bicycles, 1 children's bicycle, and 1 cell phone. The 6 of them walked around the villa and assigned rooms. Xiaolian, the bicycles are here. Hearing Toru Watanabe's shout outside the house, Xiaolian, who was hanging up her clothes with her 2 wives, shouted, bicycles. She impatiently ran out. Outside the villa, under the shade of the trees and sunlight, 6 brand new bicycles were parked on a carpet of fallen leaves. Xiaolian ran to the side of the smallest car. This is a children's bicycle, and there are 2 auxiliary wheels on the rear wheel. Xiaolian has long been lost in her thoughts, imagining herself riding it, pressing the cute bell on the forest path of Qingjing's. That scene must be very handsome. Xiaolian. Miki Kujo squatted down and hung the cell phone with a string around her small neck. All of us, including your mother's phone number, are saved here. Xiaolian looked at the brand new cell phone, and then looked at Toru Watanabe. Don't look at him. The things I gave you are from your brother. Other people are also the same. After a slight pause, Miki Kujo added, including your sister Rin. Xiaolian looked at her, looked at the cell phone, and finally looked at Toru Watanabe. Your sister Miki is right. Toru Watanabe nodded. Well, try your bicycle. Toru Watanabe picked up Xiaolian and put her on the children's bicycle. Xiaolian sat on it, holding the handlebars with both hands. And only after a long time did she come back to her senses. Ache, photos. Photos. Let's show them. Look here, we're going to take photos. Xiaolian straightened her back with a straight face. After taking the photos, the 5 people, plus the impatient Xiaolian, left the villa. On both sides is the main road of the forest, extending to a small road, and at the end of each road is a villa. In the view of Xiaolian, who is riding the bicycle, the structure in front of her is full of mystery. It is a world she has never imagined. Everything is shining. The wind blows her hair. Her immature face is slightly lost in thought. Only her feet subconsciously step on the pedals. The other 5 people walk behind her. If they ride the bicycle together with Xiaolian's children's bicycle, the speed is so slow that the bicycle may not stand up. The air is cool. Toru Watanabe stretched his body. It's better to have fewer people. When I picked up Xiaolian, they all thought I was an idol, or regarded me as something like the Tokyo Tower, and wanted to take photos with me. Are you thinking about your debut? Mrs. Kujo said with a smile. I will personally make you a big star. I'm not interested in being famous. Can't you play Ultraman if you become a star? Miki Kujo mocked. What's 555? Rin Kiyono nodded in agreement. Don't be like this. I have already graduated from middle school. I've heard of Ultraman. What's 555? Mrs. Kujo held her daughter's hand and asked curiously. Rin Kiyono raised her chin at Toru Watanabe. Perform it. I'm 17 years old. Toru Watanabe firmly refused. If I were a year or 2 younger, maybe I could perform and be proud of it. Rin Kiyono laughed. She was not laughing at him for lying or for being shy, but because these words came from The Great Gatsby, the first book Toru Watanabe borrowed from her. I want to read it too. Mrs. Kujo put her hands on her daughter's shoulders and poked her head out from behind her, looking at Toru Watanabe expectantly. Kuin Watanabe, please perform. Miki. Mother wants to see it. You should perform, my dear, Miki Kujo said with a smile. I'm going to leave you here. Little Lian, who had ridden far away, turned back and shouted. Coming. Toru Watanabe quickly walked up. Little Lian, I'll push the cart for you. So fast. So fast. Captain, please control the direction. Don't hit the forest. I'm the captain? Yes, you're the captain. I'm the captain. The 2 of them shouted as they headed towards the commercial street. Graduated from middle school, turns out, he's still a child. Looking at the 2 of them, the 2 young ladies said at the same time. Oh. The 2 of them stared at each other. The 2 madams also looked at each other and laughed heartily. Rin Kiyono pulled herself out of her mother's arms. Miki Kujo shook her shoulders and shook off her mother's hands. Chapter 307. The lush green forest on both sides didn't look like it was in Japan. Instead, it looked more like it was in Europe, with a dark tinge. In the forest of firs and larches, weeds grew abnormally luxuriant, and the edges of the roads were covered with moss. From time to time, bicyclists would pass by in pairs. As more and more tourists arrived, they arrived at the shopping district. This was the busiest old street in Karajings. There was an old European-style church along the street. Pedestrians came and went, wearing fashionable and exquisite clothes. There were rows upon rows of shops, antique shops, and Western-style restaurants filled with an artistic atmosphere. There was a retro red bus with a square cabin and square glass, looking very much like a large candy jar. Little Lien rode on the cute children's bicycle, her eyes sparkling as she stared at everything in front of her for a long time. She felt that she must have come to a magical world. Toru Watanabe captured this scene on his phone. They wandered around the street. Almost every store they entered had products on display that captivated little Lien. Ache! She looked up and tugged at Toru Watanabe's sleeve. As if she had discovered a treasure, she turned to him and said, "A hat, it's so cute. Do you want it?" Toru Watanabe knelt down on one knee and looked at the hat with her. It was a children's sunshade hat with a beautiful blue ribbon bow. Oh! Little Lien's eyes widened. "Do you want to buy it for me? How about you try it on first? If it looks good, I'll buy it." Little Lien stared at the hat for a long time, shook her head and said childishly, "Forget it, Mom told me not to spend Ache's money casually." "Good girl, Auntie will buy it for you, okay?" Mrs. Kiyono couldn't help but rub little Lien's head. Little Lien still shook her head. "This isn't spending money recklessly," Toru Watanabe said. "This hat is necessary to wear in summer, otherwise you'll get sunburned." "Is that so?" Little Lien looked at him in surprise. "I've never worn it in summer." "That's because you used to be young. Now that you've grown up, you'll get sunburned." "Does Grandpa Tanabu wear such a hat every time he goes to the fields?" Xiaoyan's mouth gaped open. She suddenly realized something and said, "As expected, it's a must-have for summer." Toru Watanabe stood up and asked the shop assistant, "Can I try it?" "Of course." The shop assistant quickly said, "This model is very popular with children. It's the best-selling children's model in the store." Xiaoyan put on her hat and looked at herself in the mirror. "Oh," she said in amazement and satisfaction. "A sun hat and a dress are a classic combination. Let's go buy a dress next," Rin Kiyono said. "A dress?" Xiaoyan turned her head to look at her. "Let's go." Rin Kiyono held Xiaoyan's hand, and the two of them walked out of the store. "Xiaoyan, your brother was lying to you just now. Sunburn has nothing to do with age. Moreover, it's not that easy to get sunburned in Qingjing Lake." Xiaoyan stared at her blankly. "Do you want to return the hat? Let me ask you a question. If you answer it correctly, you don't have to pay me back. We'll get it right." The two of them walked out of the hat store as if they were sisters. The remaining 4 people looked at them. Miki Kujo crossed her arms and sneered, "You're acting like you're her sister." "Is Miki jealous?" Kiyono asked with a smile. "Jealous? Little Rin's sister used to be Miki alone." "Is that so?" Mrs. Kujo looked at her daughter with a smile. Miki Kujo stared at the two of them coldly. "Don't make my Miki angry." Toru Watanabe hooked his arm around Miki Kujo's shoulder and walked out of the store to chase after his sister. "Are you playing with me?" Miki Kujo turned her face and stared at him. "This is called making you happy. Toru Watanabe, you're getting more and more presumptuous, this lady." The ladies looked at the back of the 2 people disappearing, looked at each other and laughed at the same time. 2 young women who looked to be 25 years old, arm in arm, followed. Buying a dress in a clothing store. Eating cake and savoring tea in a specialty tea restaurant. Looking for the oldest flavor of light well lake in the jam shop. Xiaoyan felt novel and excited. At first, she followed Toru Watanabe closely. Finally, she became familiar with her sister and auntie and only discussed with them. "Xiaoyan, let's go. You'll live here for a month, there's plenty of time to see," Mrs. Kujo said. Xiaoyan's hands were on the window, reluctantly looking at the half-a-person tall beehive. On the edge of the beehive, there was a hill of honey pots. Under the persuasion of Mrs. Kujo, Xiaoyan finally walked out of the store. She held Rin Kiyono in one hand and held the dragonfly doll in the other hand. Sister Rin, our house, once the bees came to build a nest. Really? But not this big, only the size of my mother's fist. We picked flowers and wanted them to collect honey, but my mother destroyed the bees' home the next day. Xiaoyan's mother did it for Xiaoyan's good. Xiaoyan nodded. After leaving the honey store, they went to the supermarket. Xiaoyan opened her eyes and said intoxicatedly, "Is this a supermarket? This is very small. When we return to Tokyo, Auntie will take you to the real shopping mall." Mrs. Kiyono said. Xiaoyan. Toru Watanabe took a shopping cart. "Do you want to push it?" "I want to push it." Xiaoyan raised her hand. Xiaoyan struggled to push the large shopping cart. Toru Watanabe helped her carry the doll and bought a lot of ingredients. "Tonight we'll eat pork hot pot." Mrs. Kiyono happily selected the ingredients. They only bought enough for dinner. 6 people is not a small amount, and when the ladies buy things, they obviously don't have the idea of almost enough to eat. Although it's just dinner, they put it in the shopping cart. They buy the same day's ingredients, including the morning bread. Buying food and cooking every day, they don't know if this kind of life can last for a lifetime, but occasionally try, such as this August, it's not a problem. After buying the ingredients, Xiaoyan was already tired. They originally planned to go to a coffee shop called Maruyama to buy coffee beans together, but the 2 ladies went by themselves. Toru Watanabe, the 2 ladies, and Xiaoyan sat on a bench under the shade of a tree, eating ice cream cones and waiting for them. Toru Watanabe was surrounded by a pile of shopping bags. Xiaoyan's foot was her bicycle, she was wearing a sun hat, and she was holding a big-eyed dragonfly doll in her arms. In front of them was a small forest park. Among the tall trees, there were some children's facilities. Slides, seesaws, locomotives, and a maze made of ropes. "Do you want to play?" Miki Kujo asked Xiaoyan. Xiaoyan was concentrating on eating ice cream cones. When she heard her words, she looked up at the park. "Sister Miki, do you want to play together?" she asked. "Let your sister Rin accompany you," Miki Kujo said. Xiaoyan turned her head and looked at Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono was so tired that she didn't want to say anything. She just waved her hand. Xiaoyan looked at Miki Kujo again. "Let your brother accompany you." Miki Kujo glanced at Toru Watanabe. Xiaoyan looked at Toru Watanabe again. When Tetsumasa Watanabe was about to speak, a group of fashionably dressed children came over while chatting. When they arrived at the forest park, they laughed and ran, rushing to one toy after another. In the blink of an eye, the originally empty children's facilities were full of children's figures. Xiaoyan stared at them blankly. This was the first time she saw so many people of her age. "When the cone is finished, we'll go play," Toru Watanabe said. Xiaoyan quickly ate the cone. At this time, Miki Kujo said, "Xiaoyan, if they ask where you're from, just say that you're from Tokyo. If someone asks where you live, just say Firefly Road, Forest Villa." Got it, Sister Miki." Xiaoyan finished eating the cone, immediately jumped off the chair, eagerly looking at Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe stood up and walked towards the park with Xiaoyan. After walking a few steps, he turned around and said to the big miss, who was still slowly eating the cone, "Look after the things." Miki Kujo didn't say a word, just waved her hand. Watching the 2 people go away, Miki Kujo said, "Getting closer to Xiaoyan, is this your way of getting closer to Watanabe?" "Not all." Rin Kiyono looked at the ice cream in her hand. The sunlight from the leaves above her head fell on it, making it look very warm. "Take a guess, did Watanabe see through your despicable methods?" Miki Kujo said with a smile. Rin Kiyono calmly looked at her. "The decisive reason why I'm good to Xiaoyan is because she's Watanabe classmate's sister. Do I need to see through this kind of thing?" After saying that, she smiled. "If you want to say that I'm cold, Watanabe classmate likes girls like me, no, he likes me." Miki Kujo looked at Rin Kiyono. After a while, she sighed. "Sometimes I really envy you. Why am I always winning, but you're worried about this and that and can't be optimistic? Because you know you'll lose." Miki Kujo smiled. "Although I can't be as optimistic as you, I have the confidence that I won't lose. Rin Kiyono, who never lies, tell me, do you really think you can win against me? No matter what, I won't lose. Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe, who was playing on the seesaw, and thought of that night in the Pacific Ocean that was filled with stars. While she was lost in thought, she suddenly felt a chill on her fingers. The ice cream cone in her hand melted because it was exposed to the sun for a long time, and a drop fell on her slender white fingers. She took out a tissue and gently wiped it off. The two of them stopped talking and looked at the park. Toru Watanabe and Xiaolian were playing on the seesaw while a little girl wearing a princess dress stood on the side and watched them. Toru Watanabe said something to the little girl and moved aside. Xiaolian didn't say anything at first, but she soon started playing with the little girl in the princess dress. The two of them forgot about the seesaw and slide. In the end, they sat on the slide and didn't go down. Instead, they studied the big-eyed dragonfly doll. They seemed to be complimenting each other on their sun hats and dresses. Xiaolian danced with joy. The little girl in the princess dress occasionally said something, but Xiaolian just stood there foolishly. Then, Xiaolian spoke loudly with a serious face. The little girl in the princess dress lightly said something again, and Xiaolian froze again. Looking at Toru Watanabe's expression, the two children shouldn't be quarreling. Instead, they were happily chatting. The little girl in the princess dress suddenly pointed at Toru Watanabe under the slide and said something. Then Toru Watanabe turned around and came back. What's the matter? Miki Kujo asked. The children in the city are really precocious. Toru Watanabe sat down on a chair. After a while, Xiaolian slid down the slide and ran over. The little girl in the princess dress followed behind her. Xiaolian ran up to the three of them. She clenched her small fist in front of her eyes and excitedly asked Toru Watanabe, "Ache, Santa Claus doesn't exist." Without waiting for Toru Watanabe to speak, the little girl in the princess dress behind Xiaolian said proudly, "Lian-chan still believes in Santa Claus in first grade. Ache, Santa Claus really doesn't exist." Xiaolian asked loudly, "He doesn't exist, right? A perverted big brother who stands under the slide and peeks at a girl's underwear?" The little girl in the princess dress said to Toru Watanabe. She pinched her sleeves and swayed her body arrogantly. Toru Watanabe turned to the two young ladies and said, "Did you see it?" "So, did you see it?" Rin Kiyono asked. "Who would pay attention to that kind of thing? Ache, Santa Claus." Xiaolian shouted. Toru Watanabe was a bit embarrassed. "How about we go back and ask your mother?" "He doesn't exist, Xiaolian," Rin Kiyono said. Toru Watanabe. Xiaolian stood there with her mouth agape. The little girl in the princess dress was so happy that she looked like she was about to dance. Then she took Xiaolian's hand and said, "Lian-chan, even if Santa Claus doesn't exist, you can still get the perverted big brother who stands under the slide and peeks at a girl's underwear to give you a present." Xiaolian's eyes lit up again as she looked at Toru Watanabe. "Really, Ache?" "Really?" Toru Watanabe nodded solemnly. "That's incredible," Xiaolian murmured. "My life almost changed." "Lian-chan, let's go back and play?" the little girl in the princess dress said. "Yeah, I want to play on the train." That's boring. It's just a model. But if Lian-chan wants to play, I'll play with you." "Thank you, Ka-chan." The two little girls held hands and ran to the train. Xiaolian played the role of the driver and conductor, and her sun hat became a work hat. The girl named Keiho played the role of a passenger together with the dragonfly doll. The two of them played very seriously and methodically sold tickets, got on the train, and arrived at the station. When the two ladies returned, Xiaolian waved goodbye to the little girl in the princess dress. "Goodbye, Ka-chan." "Goodbye, Lian-chan. Let's play together tomorrow. I'll take you to see the dragonfly that will land on your finger." "It's a promise." "Yeah. You made a friend, Xiaolian." Mrs. Kujo pressed down on Xiaolian's sun hat. "Yeah." On the way back, Xiaolian rode her bicycle with the dragonfly plushie in the basket. She kept riding forward. The green shade, the sunlight, and the chirping of birds. The wind blew her hair up again, and her clear eyes sparkled. When they returned to the villa that was integrated into the forest, Mrs. Kiyono began cooking dinner. She used firewood and kunpu as a base, then added pork slices, mushroom tofu and cabbage. The pot bubbled and boiled, and other ingredients, as well as dipping sauces and wine, were placed around it. Does anyone need rice? I soaked the rice for 20 minutes in advance, Toru Watanabe said. Give me a bowl, Rin Kiyono said. Me too. Xiaoyan handed over her bowl. Mrs. Kiyono picked up a piece of meat from the ingredient plate, cooked it in the boiling soup, dipped it in the dipping sauces, and put it in Xiaoyan's bowl. Xiaoyan, try it. Thank you, Auntie Yuzi. Xiaoyan ate the meat with the rice. Is it good? Yeah. Xiaoyan also cooked a piece of meat and gave it to Mrs. Kiyono. Auntie Yuzi for you. Thank you, Xiaoyan. Mrs. Kiyono couldn't help but pinch Xiaoyan's little face. Although she pinched her face, it didn't prevent Xiaoyan from cooking the ingredients in the pot. In the wooden villa, the 6 of them enjoyed delicious food at the exquisite dining table under the warm lighting. Xiaoyan, halfway through the meal, Mrs. Kujo asked, "Is it fun here or in the countryside?" Xiaoyan lowered her head, not knowing how to answer. Toru Watanabe glanced at her and said, "Xiaoyan, you might think that the countryside is better because you're away from Jianza and Miss Mom and everyone. Or you might think that it's fun here because it's your first time in the city and you haven't seen anything. Don't jump to conclusions." Xiaoyan raised her head and looked at him. Every kind of life has its own fun. You'll only know what you like after you try them all. Xiaoyan, you can choose any kind of life you want, but you can't look down on or dislike another kind. Yeah, I know. Xiaoyan nodded obediently. Toru Watanabe rubbed her little head and said, "You can catch fish in the fields of Jianza village and ride a bicycle in the forest of Qingjings. You can treat both equally. Xiaoyan, you're already an amazing elementary school student. I want to be the most amazing elementary school student." Yeah, just like your older brother. Is this Koen Watanabe's way of teaching? Mrs. Kiyono said. What way of teaching? I just say whatever comes to my mind, and I won't force Xiaoyan to do anything, Toru Watanabe replied. You don't force others to choose, but you subtly influence them, Rin Kiyono muttered to herself as she ate. Toru Watanabe picked up a large bottle of drink from the ice bowl and asked everyone, "Who wants it?" After eating and taking a bath, Xiaoyan lay down on the bed early, because she had been driving all day and walking for a long time. She was wearing old pajamas from home and lying on the soft bed, covered with snow-white bedding. The dragonfly doll was placed next to the pillow. Toru Watanabe covered her with a quilt. Ache, I miss Mom and Dad. Toru Watanabe looked at her moist eyes and sat on the edge of the bed whispering. Then think about tomorrow. Tomorrow. Yeah, didn't you make an appointment with Kazi-chan to see the dragonfly on your finger together? Yeah. There's also a mailbox. The red mailbox you saw today. Tomorrow, you can send Mom and Dad a commemorative card from Qingjings. You can also put Xiaoyan's photo in it. I want to send it. Then I'll look forward to tomorrow. Yeah. Let me tell you a story. A story about treasure. Yeah. A long time ago. How long ago? 1621. A long time ago. Yeah, a long time ago, so long ago, Spain brutally plundered the colonies. The gold, silver, and other rare resources of South America were shipped back to Spain by ship. Chapter 308. Toru Watanabe turned off the light and left Xiaoyan's bedroom without making a sound. In the living room, the ladies were talking about last year's Karuizawa under the bright yellow light. It was the Yulon Hungry Ghost Festival, right? Mrs. Kiyono asked. Rin Kiyono nodded. I didn't remember the date, but I remember seeing someone walking the emperor and his wife's horse at the racetrack. Mrs. Kiyono smiled proudly. Those 2 people only come to Karuizawa during the Yulon Hungry Ghost Festival. At this time, seeing Toru Watanabe come out, she asked, Is Xiaoyan asleep? Yeah. Toru Watanabe walked to the kitchen counter and took a bunch of grapes from the fridge. Do you come here every summer for a month? He washed the grapes and asked them at the dining table. No, Miki Kujo replied. Even if we come, we only stay for 3 days at most. Then why is it a month this time? Toru Watanabe threw a grape into his mouth after washing it. It was very sweet. Miki Kujo raised her eyebrows and glanced at him. I understand. Toru Watanabe washed the second grape and threw it into his mouth. Are you going to eat it all by yourself? Rin Kiyono suddenly asked. Ha! Toru Watanabe was stunned. He chewed and picked up the whole bunch of grapes. Do you want it? The ladies and gentlemen looked at him. If I don't wash it, will you not eat it? No one answered, only Mrs. Kujo said. Wash some more cucumbers. Toru Watanabe took cucumbers from the fridge. After washing them, he put them on a plate together with the grapes. The plate was placed in the middle of the dining table. The five of them chatted and ate the grapes and cucumbers. Who's going to buy the bread for breakfast tomorrow? Mrs. Kujo crunched the cucumbers. They were very crisp. Just by listening to the sound, one could tell how fresh it was. I'll go. Toru Watanabe stuffed a grape into Miki Kujo's mouth and another into his own. I have a habit of jogging in the morning. It's just nice. You don't even give yourself a holiday when you're traveling. Mrs. Kiyono asked in surprise. Kun Watanabe, your body is already strong enough. Kujo Tiantian added. And we can't ask you to buy a month's worth of breakfast just because you ran in the morning. Toru Watanabe said nonchalantly, morning exercise is not for exercising the body. Or rather, it's not the main reason. Then why? Miki Kujo asked. Actually, I don't like morning exercise. Toru Watanabe picked up a cucumber and took a bite. In order to overcome the hate to do things I don't like mentality and develop the habit of self-discipline, I started to run in the morning. As if hearing something incredible, in the living room of the villa, for a while, there was only the sound of Toru Watanabe eating cucumber. Enough EQ, a smart brain, forcing yourself to do things you don't like, Mrs. Kiyono sighed. Maybe just relying on yourself, your future achievements won't be lower than being the son-in-law of the Kiyono family or the Kujo family. No, I'm just an ordinary person, Toru Watanabe said. The author of The Great Gatsby has a saying. Rin Kiyono ate a grape. People who say they are ordinary people can't be trusted? Toru Watanabe laughed. But I'm really an ordinary person. My dream before the age of 16 was to become a civil servant. Being a diplomat is also good, using the taxes paid by the people to travel around the world. You're indeed an ordinary person. Mrs. Kiyono nodded. Toru Watanabe leaned back in his chair, eating cucumber, and comfortably agreed. Mrs. Kiyono continued. Going to an ordinary high school, being admitted to an ordinary university in advance, and having an ordinary girlfriend. Yes. Toru Watanabe nodded. I'm that ordinary. Ordinary girlfriend? Mrs. Kiyono asked with a smile. I'm even more ordinary. Toru Watanabe turned his head to look at Miki Kujo and took a bite of cucumber. Don't lie to a 3-year-old. Miki Kujo knew Watanabe's character very well. The two ladies couldn't help but laugh. Toru Watanabe's words really can't be trusted, Mrs. Kiyono said. Maybe he's with Miki to invade the Kujo family's property. Toru Watanabe sat up straight and stopped eating cucumber. Auntie Yuko, you can't say things like that. It's very possible. Mrs. Kujo nodded seriously. These people looked like they were joking, so they might remember it. Toru Watanabe turned his head to Rin Kiyono and said, Are-san, help me. You know whether I have it or not. Rin Kiyono reached out with her fair and delicate fingers and took a grape from the plate. She glanced at him and put the grape into her mouth. You'll cause a misunderstanding, Toru Watanabe said. Rin Kiyono didn't say anything. I'll remember. Mrs. Kujo nodded and said. Rin Kiyono stared at Toru Watanabe with clear eyes. Do you need me to tell you if this sentence is true? Toru Watanabe turned his head to look at Miki Kujo. Miki. Grape. Toru Watanabe stuffed a grape into her mouth. Miki Kujo chewed casually. Although Koen Watanabe has to go for a morning run, you can't really buy bread alone. Mrs. Kujo said. Let Miki go with you. I won't allow little Rin to do nothing alone. Let's take turns. Mrs. Kiyono smiled. Taking out the garbage at night is the same. There are so few streetlights here. As a boy, Koen Watanabe has to go every day. The rest of us will take turns. I can do it alone, Toru Watanabe said. Kun Watanabe, we're equal, so we have to share the housework. Only in this way can we spend a month happily. After speaking to Toru Watanabe, Mrs. Kiyono turned to Mrs. Kujo and said, letting Toru Watanabe do it alone is a bit like treating him like a servant because he's the son-in-law and a country bumpkin. What do you think? I think you're a vixen, Mrs. Kujo said. Thank you for the compliment. Mrs. Kiyono smiled. She then asked Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono, do you two have any objections? Yes, Miki Kujo said. Well, you're Kun Watanabe's boyfriend. Of course you have objections. Kun Watanabe can't do it alone. He'll be like a servant. We'll accompany him. If you have any objections, then Miki, you'll accompany Kun Watanabe every day. Toru Watanabe was puzzled by Mrs. Kiyono's words, but there must be more to it. Sure enough, Mrs. Kiyono said again. It's okay to take out the garbage at night. Buy bread every morning. Miki, can you get up? Miki Kujo was speechless. This was indeed a very serious and practical problem that had to be faced. Kun Watanabe will take turns every day. Xiaolian will follow her. Mrs. Kiyono clapped her hands happily. It's decided. At this time, Mrs. Kujo said lightly, the rule is 2 people, but there's no upper limit. Vixen. Mrs. Kiyono rolled her eyes at her. Same to you. Mrs. Kujo raised her hand. Happy working with you. Happy working with you. The 2 ladies high-fived happily. Rin Kiyono looked at Miki Kujo and said with a smile, I have a habit of getting up early. You think I can't do it? You get up early. I can sleep in. Looking at Rin Kiyono's smile, Miki Kujo had already guessed what she was going to say next. But if I get up early, you have to get up early. Sure enough. If it were Aono Koizumi or Mayasahi, Miki Kujo would never get up early. Just like when Toru Watanabe said that Mayasahi would come to Karuizawa. She didn't take it to heart at all. But Rin Kiyono had to be watched at all times. This was the curse of the winner, and also the curse of her opponent, Rin Kiyono, a beautiful girl as outstanding as her. On August 2nd, the second day after coming to Karuizawa, Miki Kujo didn't get up. At night, she was Toru Watanabe's sister, and she was used to getting up late. 5 o'clock in the morning was too strange. Even if she went to school, she didn't get up until 8 o'clock. Toru Watanabe called her. She sat up with her eyes closed, but after a while she lay back down. She didn't get up? Rin Kiyono hugged her elbows with both hands. I thought she could at least last a day. I overestimated her. You go and ridicule her. She'll definitely get up. Do you want me to go? Rin Kiyono looked at Toru Watanabe with a smile. We're just going to buy bread together. It doesn't matter if you don't go. You only went to Imperial Tea for a day. Ran. Toru Watanabe said. Rode a bicycle. Rin Kiyono rejected without hesitation. Early in the morning, Karuizawa was shrouded in a thin mist, and it was a little cold. She was wearing a long-sleeved white shirt, the kind that had beautiful folds on the chest. The pure white cuffs were wrapped around her wrists without a trace of excess fat. Her choice of cufflinks was also unique. She was wearing a light blue long skirt, with a light green ribbon tied around her waist with a bow, and the ribbon naturally fell on the left side. She was dressed exquisitely, but also seemed to be very casual. It made her look noble, and at the same time, had a natural and fresh aura. Toru Watanabe looked at her several times. Beautiful. Rin Kiyono grabbed the sleeves of her shirt and twisted her slender waist. The hem of her skirt gently spun, just like Karuizawa when the mist has just dispersed. Toru Watanabe said, You've seen it before? No. But when people hear it, they think it must be beautiful. With your level of sweet talk, I can only give you 8 points for this sentence. You haven't read enough books. Toru Watanabe said, Let's go. I'll run, and you'll ride the bicycle. I have a place I want to go on the way. We're going to buy bread, Kiyono-sama. It's right across from the bakery, Karuizawa bookstore. Let's go together. Toru Watanabe jogged in front, and Rin Kiyono rode the bicycle slowly behind him. The bakery that the ladies had mentioned was called Truffle Bakery. It was very far from the villa area, and it was a little in the middle of nowhere. In the mist, they could only see the warm bright yellow lights, and they could already smell the fragrance of freshly baked bread. There are quite a lot of people, Toru Watanabe said. You line up, and I'll go to the bookstore first? Rin Kiyono parked the bicycle in front of the shop. No. The two of them lined up together. Amidst the thick aroma of truffles and cream wafting out of the shop, Seino Rin introduced Toru Watanabe to life in Karuizawa. The Sunday Mass in the Catholic Church, the stone church where weddings were held, the small town of Elm Tree where violinists and guitarists often performed in the open air. When it was their turn, they bought the popular truffle bread, chocolate kerosene bread, and so on, and packed them in newspaper-like bags. When Rin Kiyono hugged the bread, the staff and customers in the shop looked at her several times. She looked like a noble lady who had walked out of the Middle Ages. Let's go to the bookstore, Rin Kiyono said after they walked out of the shop. Let's go to the water bookstore. Toru Watanabe nodded in agreement. For people like them who liked to read, going to a bookstore was a wonderful thing. Toru Watanabe wanted to go to a bookstore during the 2 hours he was in the hot sea. Karuizawa Bookstore was a bookstore owned by Nagoya. It was near the Truffle Bakery and was just across the road. The bookstore wasn't large, and it provided coffee and breakfast. Many customers who wanted to buy bread or bought bread lingered in the store. The variety of books was quite comprehensive, but most of them were books and magazines related to Karuizawa. People couldn't help but pick them up and flip through them. In addition to the books, there were many folk arts and porcelain exhibitions. Most of the books are by local writers, and the porcelain handicrafts are also the work of local craftsmen. Many of the elements are from Nagano Prefecture. Rin Kiyono explained softly, while holding a woven basket. It's very interesting, but it's not beautiful, Toru Watanabe replied softly. I like things that are natural. Maybe it's handicrafts. We can't rule out that possibility. The two of them stood side by side in front of a cabinet, and whispered to each other. Toru Watanabe picked up the book next to the basket and opened it. It introduced the local customs of Nagano Prefecture. It's quite interesting to put books and things together, he said. Rin Kiyono put the bread directly into the basket. Did you buy it? Toru Watanabe asked. Yes, Rin Kiyono nodded. The two of them picked a few more books. Toru Watanabe remembered what he promised Xiaolian last night, so he bought some photos of Karuizawa's scenic spots. This, Toru Watanabe picked up a book, is the person your mother talked about last night. On the cover of the book was Emperor Akihito and his empress. The two of them had silver hair and stood side by side, smiling at the camera. The two of them met here. Rin Kiyono turned to a page and pointed at the picture and said, Here, and this tennis court. Toru Watanabe put the book back and laughed softly. When I'm 30 years old, this place will be full of magazines and books with my photos. Karuizawa's slogan will also be changed to Karuizawa. Toru Watanabe visited when he was 17 years old, and he will come here every summer for vacation. Rin Kiyono laughed pleasantly. You don't believe me? And then, who's standing next to you? Arsan, we're here to buy books. We're here to buy bread. You're always right, amen. Amen is Christianity. What about the bishop that day? Catholicism is also amen. Are you playing with me? No, I'm just bullying you for your lack of knowledge. On the way back, the fog dissipated. The moist wind mixed with the smell of grass and trees passed by them. The quaint villa was hidden in the woods on both sides. The sound of birds became crisp, and the morning light passed through the leaves and branches. The tree-lined path leading to the villa was quiet and full of poetry. The two of them turned into the path and saw the villa. Xiaolian was squatting in front of a phoenix tail grass, the beautiful sunshine sprinkled on it. Ding-ling ding-ling. Hearing the bicycle bell, she turned her head to look. Ache, Sister Rin. She got up and ran over. Rin Kiyono got off the bicycle. Xiaolian, what was Tokyo called before? Xiaolian excitedly said. I know. It was Edo. Which year was Edo renamed to Tokyo? Xiaolian was stunned. A long time ago, 1621. It was September 1868. Rin Kiyono handed her the basket in the frame of the bicycle. Wrong answer, You're punished to take the bread back to the house. Bread. I want to eat it. Chapter 309. Sleeping in on the first day. Mrs. Cujo said to Mickey Cujo, who had just come out of the bedroom. Mickey Cujo's long hair was loose, and she was yawning. She was still wearing her pajamas with long sleeves and trousers. Between her hair that was as dark as night, her sparkling and translucent skin appeared even fairer. It's morning, Mickey Nasan. Xiaolian said like an alarm clock. Her attention was still on how to deal with the sausages with a knife and fork. Mickey Cujo lazily responded and sat down at the table. Toru Watanabe took some bread from the basket and gave it to her and poured some milk for her. The freshly bought bread was paired with their favorite coffee, black tea and milk, as well as some sausages and salad. This was their breakfast for the first day in Karuizawa. Did you go together in the morning? Mickey Cujo took the bread and asked Toru Watanabe. What did you do? We went for a run, bought bread, and went to the bookstore. Toru Watanabe looked at Xiaolian, who was rolling the sausages around under her knife and fork. You didn't hide in the woods and do something that will make you apologize to God and Mickey? Mrs. Cujo took Xiaolian's knife and fork and neatly stuck it into the sausages. Oh, Xiaolian looked at the sausages in admiration. Mickey, you must get up tomorrow and come with me. Toru Watanabe said. I'll rest for the next 3 days. Rin Kiyono said. Her soft cherry lips took a bite of the soft French toast and continued. If I finish reading, I'll get up early one morning even if I'm not in charge. Mickey Cujo put down the bread and used the knife and fork to eat Toru Watanabe's salad. Her eyes revealed a thoughtful expression, as if she was thinking about how to fight back or whether to get up early in the morning. I'll make another one. Toru Watanabe pushed the salad towards her. No, I'll just take a few bites, Mickey Cujo said. As she ate, the look in her eyes returned to normal, but she did not respond to Rin Kiyono. It made people wonder if her expression just now was simply because she was still asleep. Ache, we also want to go buy bread with you. Xiaolian grilled the sausages with a knife and fork in her left hand, and held the milk in her right hand. Xiaolian's bicycle is too slow. Stay at home and wait for Brother Ache to come back. Mrs. Kiyono wiped the milk foam from her lips with a tissue. How can it be faster? Little Lien asked. Remove the auxiliary wheel. Toru Watanabe tore off a small piece of bread and put it in his mouth. I'll teach you this morning. As soon as they finished eating, Xiaolian pushed her children's bicycle out. Hanging around her slender neck was the cell phone that Mika Kujo had given her yesterday. Just in case, Mika Kujo had told her to carry it with her at all times and to remember to charge it every night. Xiaolian had memorized everything. Toru Watanabe found some tools and helped her remove the auxiliary wheel. He held the bicycle and let Xiaolian ride forward. When she was about to fall, he stepped forward in time to catch her. At noon, Xiaolian successfully learned how to ride the bicycle. At this time, someone called the villa. A carefree female voice invited the two ladies to play. Together? It's at the villa on Waterwheel Road. Mrs. Cujo looked at the 3 boys and girls, as well as a child who was happily riding a bicycle. We'll talk about jewelry with you, whose children got married, whose family got divorced, and how to resist aging. Mickey Cujo said without interest. You're so rude. Mrs. Cujo looked at her daughter with a reproachful look. The 2 ladies said that the 6 of them would go to the racecourse together tomorrow. And then they went to visit. Toru Watanabe looked at Rin Kiyono across from him. On the villa's balcony, the fresh air, and the sunlight from the forest. She was reading the book that she bought in the morning. Whether it was Kujo Masako or Kiyono Yukiko, they didn't specifically ask her if she wanted to go. She who could see through lies, had no fate with this kind of gathering. Not only this kind of gathering, but also New Year's, any gathering, because of lies, not even friends. Toru Watanabe looked at the sunlight falling through the leaves. In Japanese, there was a special word, mokuroku, which referred to the sunlight falling through the gaps between the branches and leaves of the trees. Toru Watanabe sat on the rattan chair and crossed his legs. He leisurely tapped his fingers on his thigh and sang. Everyone who comes is a guest, all depends on the mouth. Xiangfeng opened his mouth and laughed without thinking. As soon as he left, the tea became cold. What is there to lie about? Amid the crisp chirping of birds, Beijing opera with perfect pronunciation, and a lingering sound lingered in the air. Rin Kiyono looked up from her book and looked at him with a slight smile. Toru Watanabe was leisurely, as if he was in the mood, and sang casually. This woman is unusual. Her attitude is neither humble nor arrogant. Her expression is neither gloomy nor yang. Miki Kujo smiled and also sang in Chinese. Toru Watanabe couldn't keep his composure anymore. He felt embarrassed, as if he had been caught in the act. He didn't expect Miki Kujo to know Beijing opera. How could she use her 8 points of intelligence in this kind of place? Miki Kujo was still singing. At the end, her slender white finger pointed at the tip of Toru Watanabe's nose, and with a beautiful voice she sang meaningfully. This idiot is a wall that blocks the wind. Rin Kiyono couldn't help but laugh. It was very beautiful. Are we a good match? Miki Kujo rested her chin on Toru Watanabe's shoulder, and asked her with a smile. The shade was rich, the sun was shining, the handsome and clean boy, and the delicate and charming girl. Rin Kiyono stopped smiling, snorted noncommittally, and continued to read the book in her hand. Miki Kujo looked away from her and looked at Toru Watanabe with a smile. Toru Watanabe, you call yourself an ordinary person. Are there any Japanese high school students who know Beijing opera? And you can even find Beijing opera to express your feelings. It's very ordinary. Toru Watanabe took a sip of tea. Understanding culture and learning songs is just one of the ways to learn a language. I can also sing Spanish songs. Sing for me. Miki Kujo said with a smile. Sueño o ando era pequeño, I dream of my youth, sin preoccupation en el corazón, carefree in the heart, Italian song. Miki Kujo said. Karomio ben credimialman senzadite languasilker, Toru Watanabe sang a small aria with Neapolitan characteristics. Ache, what are you singing? Xiaolian parked the bicycle under the balcony. It's an Italian vocal which is a song. My darling. My darling, please believe that without you, my heart would be melancholy. Toru Watanabe replied. It was almost noon, and the four of them were ready to go out for lunch. Miki Kujo went back to the bedroom closet to change clothes, and Toru Watanabe followed her in. He stood at the door, watching her unbuttoning her pajamas one by one, revealing her smooth skin and beautiful waistline. Why are you standing there like an idiot? Bring me a bra. Miss Kujo turned around and glanced at him. What color do you want? With a white t-shirt. Toru Watanabe picked a light-colored bra. Bras, white t-shirts with a very summery vibe, and ankle-length ruffled skirts. The 9 beauties wore them one by one. Aren't you going to scold me? Toru Watanabe couldn't help but ask. Kiyono's family and Kujo's family are friends, and we work together. I don't like her, but I hope she can take over Kiyono's family. Miki Kujo brushed her long hair out of the t-shirt. She turned around and said to Toru Watanabe, even you can't do this, she's just like that. Toru Watanabe looked at Miki Kujo in front of him. What's wrong? Miki, you've changed a lot. It's all because of you. Miki Kujo said angrily. Toru Watanabe hugged her slender waist, and Miki Kujo's hands naturally and suddenly hooked around his neck. The two of them looked at each other tenderly. I've changed, will you still like me? Miki Kujo asked softly. Sister, I'll always belong to you. Toru Watanabe answered. Miki Kujo made a sound of satisfaction. I'll always be your Miki. My Miki. Toru Watanabe sniffed her hair. The two of them left the bedroom, and Rin Kiyono was putting on the sun hat he bought yesterday for Xiaolian. Remember to take the landscape photos and put them in the mailbox. Toru Watanabe reminded Xiaolian. The four of them rode their bicycles through the mottled green forest. They could hear birds chirping and the sound of the stream rushing over the pebbles. Most of the tourists coming and going were also riding their bicycles. They arrived at their destination, a shopping street called Old Karuizawa Ginzuado, which was where most of the Karuizawa restaurants were located. After parking their bicycles, the three of them accompanied Xiaolian to mail the letter before eating. A red mailbox stood in front of a shop that sold beautiful envelopes with various covers. Xiaoyan lay on the low table, muttering as she wrote. Mom and Dad, I'm in a place called Karuizawa. There are forests and rivers here, but I don't see any rabbits. Ache sister and auntie are very good to me. I kind of miss Mom and Dad. I learned how to ride a bicycle today, so I'm going to see dragonflies. After writing, she carefully put the letter, the landscape photos from the bookstore, and the travel photos Toru Watanabe took for her into the envelope. She walked out of the shop, stood in front of the mailbox, and tiptoed to put the letter in. Mr. Postbox, please. She stroked the postbox and said. Let's go, Xiaoyan. Toru Watanabe said. Let's go eat lunch. After taking a few steps, Xiaoyan turned back again, and stared at the mailbox for a long time. She seemed to be missing her parents, but also seemed to be looking at how the mailbox would send the letter. They chose a buckwheat noodle shop for lunch. Toru Watanabe specially wore a baseball jacket to serve as a cushion for Miki Kujo. They ate buckwheat noodles in the cold summer. A bamboo basket of noodles with a bowl of sauce was refreshing and appetizing. It tasted very good. The sauce was seasoned according to their preferences. They picked up some noodles and dipped them into the sauce bowl before eating. Each person had a bowl of buckwheat noodles with various kinds of tempura placed in the middle, which tasted crispy. Xiaoyan picked up a big prawn and looked at it for a while with sparkling eyes before biting it. After lunch, while buying ice cream, Xiaoyan's cell phone rang. It was a call from the girl in the princess dress named Keiho. Ache, Keiho wants us to go to the station. We're going to the station. This is the station. Toru Watanabe pointed to the Karuizawa station not far away. Xiaoyan blinked and froze for a moment. She picked up the phone again and said excitedly, Keiho, this is bad. I don't know why we're already at the station. But it doesn't matter. This way we can meet up with you faster. Xiaoyan nodded twice. Her expression was as serious as a soldier listening to battlefield intelligence. After hanging up the phone, she said to Toru Watanabe in a deep voice, Ache, we're moving to Hoshino Resort. We'll go when the ice cream is ready. Is it ready? Xiaoyan hurriedly looked over. Toru Watanabe took the colorful ice cream and mocha from the waiter, and bent down to hand them to Xiaoyan. Looking at the two ice creams in her hand, Xiaoyan said to Toru Watanabe, Ache, you're mistaken. There's only one for us. The other one is for your friend. Our friend? Keiho. Keiho is our friend, Xiaoyan said happily. When she saw that only Toru Watanabe didn't have ice cream in his hand, she suddenly realized something. Ache, have a bite of our ice cream. She raised the colorful ice cream high. Thank you. Tetsumasa Watanabe was about to bend down and take a symbolic bite when Miki Kujo grabbed him by the back of his collar and pulled him back. She's just a child, and she's my sister. Can't I do that? Toru Watanabe asked her. No. Then let me have a bite of yours. Miki Kujo handed over some ice cream. If you dare to eat it all in one bite, I'll divorce you right now. Toru Watanabe's gaping mouth closed halfway. After buying the ice cream, the four of them strolled to Hoshino Resort. Once again, they experienced the high degree of harmony with the natural environment of Karajings. There were mountains, water, trees, and light. It was primitive but not rough, and it was exquisite nature. Xiaoyan and Keiho met up on a lawn. Lianchan, come here. Keiho was still wearing a princess dress today, and she looked like a little princess. Keiho. Xiaoyan ran over and handed her mocha coffee ice cream. For you. Keiho looked at the earthy ice cream with a look of resistance. La Toru Watanabe walked over. Miss Keiho can't eat coffee? Of course I can. Keiho snatched the ice cream. She stuck out her small tongue and carefully moved it up. At the same time, her small head was desperately trying to stay away from the ice cream. She took a bite with the tip of her tongue and chewed with a frown. Keiho, you look like you're in pain. What's wrong? Xiaoyan asked with concern. It's not painful at all. Keiho licked another small bite. As expected of Miss Keiho, you can actually finish an entire cup of coffee ice cream. You're already an adult. Toru Watanabe praised. Yes, I'm an adult. I'll finish it all, Keiho said painfully. There was a clump of dragonflies on this neat lawn. Lien-chan, a dragonfly will land on your finger if you raise it up, but you have to be a good child. Keiho raised her index finger, and soon, a dragonfly landed on her fingertip. Oh, Xiaolian watched in a daze. I want one too. She imitated Keiho and raised her index finger. A dragonfly tested it twice before landing on it. Toru Watanabe took out his cell phone and took a picture of the two girls. Shall we try it too? Let's see who's the good child. He turned around and smiled at the two girls. Rin Kiyono raised her index finger. Under the bright sunlight, it was so white that it was almost transparent. Miki Kujo also raised her flawless finger. Soon, a dragonfly landed on each of their fingertips. Toru Watanabe recorded this scene. When he checked his photo album, a dragonfly circled around him. He reflexively raised his index finger. A dragonfly slowly landed on it. The moment it landed, Toru Watanabe seemed to become one with the lawn and nature, becoming a part of the beautiful scenery here. It wasn't all that interesting, but it was a very precious memory. That year, on a sunny August, they were on the lawn and had a dragonfly land on their fingertips. P.S. Replying to some readers' comments on QQ. Subscription group 786461619 requires review. Chapter 310. Xiaolian and Keiho were playing on the lawn. Just a bare lawn with some dragonflies could make them happy for a while. Toru Watanabe and the other two were sitting at an open-air table by the lawn. Most of the customers around were in pairs, talking about trivial things in a sweet and relaxed atmosphere. The three of them were the same. The first competition of the blowing club will start in 2 days? Toru Watanabe asked Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono nodded and said in her calm and pleasant voice, August 5th, 2nd afternoon. How far can you go this year? Barely enough to qualify for the national level. Barely enough means, you won't be able to go if you make a mistake? Yes. Miki Kujo lazily yawned. Affected by the yawn, Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono were also a little tired. So the topic of the blowing competition ended there. Looking at Xiaolian and Keiho who were squatting on the lawn and studying something, Toru Watanabe was lost in thought. Is my Asahi tutoring the blowing club? Is the windowsill of the music room full of Baute bottles like last year? In a few days, the Koshien competition will start. Before the Koshien competition starts, I can't leave Tokyo. How will Aono Koizumi pass the time? The weather is so hot. What are my parents doing? Taking a nap with the fan, or watching TV to pass the time? For a while his body and mind were lazy. If I can immediately do a few questions in this state, it must be a good exercise for my willpower. Toru Watanabe opened the red question bank printed with the University of Tokyo in his mind, and began to do the math questions. Parabola C, y equals, L and M are two straight lines that pass through the origin and are tangent to the parabola. First question. There is a point A on the parabola, its distance from the line L and M are. Find the coordinates of A. Watanabe. Itutu. What's the matter? What's A22? Miki Kujo asked. The first question of Tokyo University's 2018 college entrance examination. That simple linear programming problem? That kind of question won't help you at all. Seino Lin smiled and said, I'll give you a question about the Markov chain. I said it's the first question. I'm going to do it one by one. Linear programming, Markov chains, how difficult can these things be? Miki Kujo interrupted. Let's go for a walk in the forest. I'm going to fall asleep. I agree, Rin Kiyono said. It's okay if it's boring, but I can't stand the gazes and lies around me. I know about the line of sight, but what about the lie? The couple on the left who said that they only love each other are fake. The woman on the right who said that it was her first time here is fake. The uncle at the back who kept bragging that he won money from horse betting is fake. Over there. Stop. Toru Watanabe stood up. Let's go for a walk. The two beautiful girls also stood up. He picked up his baseball uniform from Miki Kujo's chair and stretched out his arms to put it on. Aren't you hot? Rin Kiyono asked curiously. Toru Watanabe thought for a moment, then took it off and put it on his arm. People who are easily influenced are the most useless, Miki Kujo said with her arms crossed. Toru Watanabe looked at the jacket in his hand, then looked at the two girls. You two might as well kill me. It doesn't matter if you're useless or not. Who do you listen to? Miki Kujo asked with a smile. It's August, why would I wear a jacket? Toru Watanabe asked her back. Miki Kujo snorted, then said arrogantly, I'll allow you to listen to Rin Kiyono this time. Watanabe-san, can you turn into a dog? Rin Kiyono asked curiously again. I'm going to turn into a dinosaur and trample you two vicious women flat with each of my feet. Seeing Toru Watanabe's aggrieved expression, the two girls laughed happily. The three stepped onto the lawn and prepared to leave with Xiaolian. Are you leaving, Ryan-chan? Keiho looked at Xiaolian and asked. Xiaolian looked at Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe thought for 2 seconds, then asked Keiho. Miss Keiho, did you come out to play by yourself? Of course. Keiho stuck out her small chest. I come here every year. There's nowhere I haven't been. I'm relieved that Xiaolian and Miss Keiho are together. You're so familiar with Karazawa. With that, Toru Watanabe turned to look at Xiaolian. Do you want to play with Keiho? Do you dare to stay here? Yes. Xiaolian clenched her small fists. How brave. Toru Watanabe rubbed her head. Big brother and big sister are taking a walk in the forest over there. You two can play here. We'll come and pick you up later. This is Xiaolian's first time here. Miki Kujo glanced at him. When we were in Kanazawa village, Xiaolian ran all over the mountains by herself. She knows what to do and what not to do. Xiaolian, Rin Kiyono reminded. If you want to find us or have any other matters, remember to use your phone. Don't worry. Keiho took Xiaolian's hand and swore to protect her. I'm more familiar with this place than you are. Leaving Xiaolian here to play with Keiho, Toru Watanabe, Rin Kiyono, and Miki Kujo went for a walk in the forest. I can't believe you let Xiaolian go by herself, Miki Kujo said. That girl in the princess dress comes out to play by herself every day. Why can't Xiaolian? I trust her, Toru Watanabe said. If something happens, don't cry and beg me to send someone to find her. When the time comes, she'll definitely cry and beg you. I beg of you, Lord Miki. Oh right, and Lord Rin Kiyono. As they walked into the forest, the trees grew thicker and thicker. The branches and leaves covered the sky. The trees were very close together, leaving only a small path. Walking among them, it felt as if a path had been carved out in the sky. Deep in the forest, there was a wooden church with a pointed roof. The huge triangular roof hung down to the ground on both sides, like an elf's cabin in a fairy tale. Still some distance away, Toru Watanabe relied on his excellent hearing to hear the gentle sound of a harp. This was the Highland Church. The three of them walked closer. The Highland Church's predecessor was the Hoshino School, built in 1921. Thus, the words Hoshino School could be seen on the church's door. At the door, a female clergyman in a robe said to them, "There's a performance inside. If you don't mind, please go in and listen for a while." "Are we going in?" Toru Watanabe asked the two of them. "Let's take a look," Miki Kujo replied. After thanking the staff member, Toru Watanabe pushed open the door. A strong smell of the church greeted them. There were rows of long wooden chairs on both sides. A few people were sitting on them. Some were in the front, some were in the back. They sat very casually. The wall facing the door, at the end of the church, was a huge triangular glass window. Behind the huge transparent glass, there were green trees, like a lively painting. Light shone through the glass window and projected on the Bible's title page on the wooden table, creating a holy atmosphere. In front of the huge Bible's wooden table, there was a choir singing the gospel. The accompanying instruments were a harp and an organ. Toru Watanabe smelled a faint fragrance. It was the unique smell of a wooden building. Several people sitting in the middle of the church suddenly turned around and waved at the three of them. It was the two ladies. There were also some unfamiliar people around them. They were probably the ladies who came to Karazawa for the summer. Miki Kujo went straight to them. Rin Kiyono turned around and left the church. Toru Watanabe watched as Rin Kiyono disappeared. He walked towards Miki Kujo and put his baseball jacket on the bench. Miki-san, congratulations. Seeing this scene, a lady whispered to Miki Kujo with a smile. Do you plan to have your wedding here? Another lady followed up. I recommend the stone church. When I get married in the future, I plan to have my wedding there too. The third lady said. What do you think? Miki Kujo asked Toru Watanabe with a smile. The stone church is also in Karuizawa. We'll decide after we see it. Toru Watanabe whispered. Oh, the ladies laughed. The ladies in front of them turned around and gave them a stern look. They gestured for them to keep quiet. The ladies immediately sat up straight. When the ladies turned around, they whispered to each other again. Where did you go, July? I went to a mountain villa in Hokkaido. I'm bored to death. I'm not going there anymore. I told you to go skiing with me at Ski Portillo in Chile a long time ago. Lake Inca is even prettier than in the photos. I was locked up at home learning all kinds of annoying things. When I finally came to Karuizawa, I was dragged to the church. Where's Miki-san? She's in Tokyo. She didn't go anywhere. Miki-san is different from us. She's already taken over her family's affairs. She even has a fiancé. The ladies giggled at Toru Watanabe. I think I saw Rin Kiyono just now. One of the ladies said to everyone meaningfully. She left as soon as she saw us. Another lady laughed. She's still so pretentious and pretentious. She thinks she's so great. The third lady glanced at Mrs. Kiyono in the front row. She lowered her voice and didn't hide her repulsion at all. Toru Watanabe glanced at her. Kun Watanabe is so unlucky. That lady didn't notice Toru Watanabe's gaze and continued. Miki-san has to interact with her because of her family. You're the same now. That's human nature. Miki Kujo suddenly said. Everyone looked at her suspiciously. Gyo-Jumiya lifted the hem of her dress with her fingers to make it look more natural. She said nonchalantly, I hate a person. Every time he tries to maintain his dignity, he'll be called a hypocrite. Every time he exaggerates, he'll be called a lie. Every time he remains silent about something, he'll be called a betrayal. That lady's expression turned ugly for a moment, but she quickly covered it up. Let's focus on the performance. Otherwise, we're going to be scolded. Another lady laughed. I've already been scolded a few times. That lady acted like nothing had happened and joked. They all quieted down and quietly watched the performance. Toru Watanabe whispered to Miki Kujo. The sentences in The Moon and Sixpence are quite brilliant. I haven't been working recently, so I've been reduced to reading these boring books to pass the time. You didn't read before? I did. But even if I did read foreign books, I would read them while I was learning the foreign language. I only read things like The Prince and Han Fizi. That Beijing opera Battle of Wits was precisely because it was called Battle of Wits. And I just happened to catch you. I'm quite surprised that you'd speak up for her. But in Kiyono's eyes, I'm no different from those people. Miki Kujo suddenly turned her head and stared at Toru Watanabe with her deep eyes. Don't you think that she's going overboard by treating everyone equally? Before Toru Watanabe could speak, she continued. I almost forgot. Her tone returned to normal. You're firmly on her side on this matter. Toru Watanabe looked at Miki Kujo speechless. Rin Kiyono would coldly reject people close to her, even if it was just a white lie. Rin Kiyono treated people this way and never regretted it. Toru Watanabe thought that her emotionless attitude was beautiful. After a long time, he held Miki Kujo's hand and squeezed it slightly. I don't care about anyone else, but I'll do everything I can to make you reconcile with her. Unless she kneels down and licks my shoes, Miki Kujo said as she looked at the front of the church. She only wants you to call her sister. Even if there are conditions, you're too harsh. Miki Kujo didn't mention any conditions. Instead, she said something else. You and Rin Kiyono are too close. You can't think calmly and objectively about her. You think of everything from her perspective. What did Rin Kiyono do wrong? She just didn't want to lie. She insisted on not lying. She hated lying. While he was filled with anger towards the world and sympathy towards Rin Kiyono, Miki Kujo's words rang in his ears again. You and Rin Kiyono are too close. You can't think calmly and objectively about her. You think of everything from her perspective. She hated lying to the point where she refused to be close to her family and friends. Was that necessary? Wasn't that too heartless? But what was wrong with being herself? And how much courage did it take to persist in doing so? Her family and friends wanted to change her. They wanted her to give up on herself and learn how to lie. They wanted her to become part of the world of lies. Toru Watanabe thought for a long time while he listened to the harp and gospel music. The more he thought, the more annoyed he became. He hated the noise of the music. I'm going out for a while, he whispered into Miki Kujo's ear. Don't run away with Rin Kiyono, she said jokingly. As long as you're here, I'll stay at the door. Go. Toru Watanabe got up and walked out of the church in the midst of the gospel music. He had only been in there for a while, but the air outside felt very fresh. He looked up at the layers of overlapping leaves. They were almost transparent under the sunlight. They were so green that they looked like they were about to drip water. He twisted his neck and saw Rin Kiyono in the middle of the forest. She raised her phone and took a picture of the birds on the branches. Toru Watanabe stood in front of the church's wooden door. He put his hands in his pockets and quietly stared at her. Rin Kiyono saw him from the corner of her eyes. She put away her phone and walked over. Tall trees, blue sky, white clouds, and sunlight shone through the branches and onto the forest path. Rin Kiyono, wearing a French shirt and a light blue dress, was walking over. A beautiful path. Toru Watanabe said to Rin Kiyono, who was walking beside him. Is it? Rin Kiyono didn't comment. I'm not dreaming, am I? Karajings is a very humid place. The yard, the tree roots, the road, everything is covered in moss. Is your head not spared? The way you walked over just now leisurely? If you can, please walk like this every year in the future. Say something sweet to me. I'm happy. It's not like I can't promise you. I can't think of anything if you suddenly want me to say it. What happened? Rin Kiyono asked in a very natural tone. In front of God. You suddenly feel guilty about all the lies you told? Those people were talking bad about you just now. Rin Kiyono smiled. She didn't take it to heart. She was just like that. She didn't care about the eyes of the world. Even her family and friends couldn't change her determination. She didn't regret it. She didn't ask for others' approval and sympathy. She stood alone on the unreachable plateau. She let the desolation, the loneliness, the wind, the rain, the lightning, and the thunder. You ran out in anger because they said bad things about me? I'm angry, but that's not why I came out. After a short pause, Toru Watanabe continued. Miki told them off for you. Is that so? Thank you. But please tell her that she doesn't need to do anything for me. Rin Kiyono and Toru Watanabe stood side by side, looking at the fresh path under the shade of the trees. The moss on the tree roots was beautiful. The phoenix tail grass was lush and dense, and the clear chirping of birds came from the forest. The summer wind blew, and the green leaves gently trembled. Toru Watanabe's mood gradually improved. There was still time, and the scenery was beautiful. Everything would slowly get better. Tokyo handsome. He had to have the confidence to do anything. This is a beautiful path. Rin Kiyono looked at everything in front of her and said, I'll make you two friends again. Toru Watanabe turned his head and smiled at her. You're still thinking about these impossible things. Rin Kiyono helplessly sighed, then turned to look at him and smiled. Good luck, Watanabe-san. As long as I set my mind on something, I can do it for you. Is that so? The goddess cleric suddenly walked over and handed a camera to the two of them with a smile. Toru Watanabe doubtfully reached out to take it, and Rin Kiyono looked over. Under the soft light, the solemn church, and the shadows of the trees swayed in the breeze. They stood under the bright green shade of the trees and smiled at each other. Excuse me, can this photo be placed in the church? The goddess cleric asked. As far as I know, the church only displays wedding photos of people who got married here. Rin Kiyono said. God told me that the two of you will definitely get married. The goddess cleric smiled. Arsan. Toru Watanabe hurriedly stopped her. Don't quarrel, don't curse, and don't give me the cold shoulder. She just thinks that the photo is too beautiful and is praising you for being beautiful and photogenic. Don't be angry, let's be magnanimous. Rin Kiyono didn't quarrel or curse. She just gave Toru Watanabe a cold shoulder. She said to the goddess cleric, "If it's not a wedding photo, then please." Chapter 311. Wait a moment. Do you have any comments, Watanabe-san? Rin Kiyono and the female cleric looked at Toru Watanabe. You know, right? Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono looked at each other. Rin Kiyono tilted her head slightly. That puzzled look was the cutest one Toru Watanabe had ever seen. My Asahi was the second cutest. My girlfriend, my fiancé, although we're not engaged, Rin Kiyono interrupted him. It'll be me at the end of the year. If only I were as confident as you. Toru Watanabe complimented her, and then said, no matter what happens at the end of the year, my girlfriend and fiancé is now Ka-san. You have a girlfriend? After the female cleric recovered from her surprise, she stared at Toru Watanabe, as if she was looking at a scumbag. The other one who came with me just now, Toru Watanabe said. Ah. I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought you were traveling with this lady without telling your girlfriend. The female cleric hurriedly apologized. Actually, there's no difference. Rin Kiyono laughed. He has a girlfriend, but he always comes to harass me. Hey, you can't say that. Didn't you stare at my legs? Weren't you stunned when you saw me walk over just now? No. Repent to me later. Rin Kiyono spoke as if it was a matter of course. The photo of the two of them looking at each other under the sunlight shining through the green leaves in front of the Highland Church was not put in the church. Instead, it was kept in their mobile phone albums as a tourist photo. What a pity. The cleric sighed. The two of them in the photo are very compatible. It's even better than the photos taken by professional photographers in the church. If you want to take such a photo, we can take it anytime. Toru Watanabe disagreed. Rin Kiyono nodded in agreement. After all, I'm very cute. Yes, you're the most. Alright, go back to the path. I'll take a picture of you walking over here. Are there any benefits? I'm the one who took your picture, R-san. Rin Kiyono stared at the branches above his head, as if there was a cuckoo bird there. Kiyono-san? Kiyono? R-san? Toru Watanabe exclaimed. That scene just now was very beautiful. Especially when you're dressed very fresh today. You can take the best travel photos. Am I not usually fresh? Rin Kiyono retracted his gaze from the tree branch. Usually it's colder than refreshing. Just this once. Rin Kiyono sighed helplessly and walked towards the tree-lined path. Standing not too far away, she lifted the hem of her dress and spun in a circle. The light green ribbon on her tight waist fluttered in the wind. Very good. One more pose. Watanabe the photographer instructed. Rin Kiyono put her hands behind her back and walked slowly in the shade. Very good. Miss Kiyono, you're a natural model. You can earn a lot of money by shooting the cover of the new fashion magazines every month. One more pose. Rin Kiyono turned around and walked into the distance. Suddenly, she turned back and smiled sweetly at Toru Watanabe. The dazzling and refreshing image on the phone screen seemed to have materialized into something powerful that wanted to drag Toru Watanabe into it. Very good. Toru Watanabe nodded in satisfaction. I'll be Light Jing's spokesperson for another 10 years. Kiyono-san, you'll be Light Jing's spokesperson now. Rin Kiyono walked over and opened her fair and delicate right hand. Let me see. Toru Watanabe placed the phone in her palm. Rin Kiyono's finger gracefully tapped on the screen, and admired the 3 photos just now. Send them to the Kujo Kiyono Watanabe group later. Watanabe the photographer was very proud. Okay. Rin Kiyono gave a perfunctory reply and continued to slide her finger across the screen. Only 3. Okay. She slid her finger across the screen again. There are a lot of photos of legs. She zoomed in. Mickey sent them to me. I didn't take any photos secretly. Is that so? Rin Kiyono zoomed out and continued to slide her finger across the screen. She nodded at one of the photos and said, my swimsuit photo. She continued to slide down. Miss Kiyono, my privacy. Kiyono the goddess checked the believer's inner world and returned the phone to him in satisfaction. Toru Watanabe sent the 3 photos to the group chat. I gave you the phone because I trusted you, but you took the opportunity to check the contents of my phone. I won't give it back to you next time. Not only do you not care, you're actually happy. There's something wrong with your eyes. I'm looking with my heart. There's something wrong with your heart. My heart refers to the soul, Watanabe-san. What kind of shallow person would take the word heart I just said to mean heart? How vicious are you to deliberately call me shallow, even though you know I'm joking? But I'm only scolding you. Thank you. But do you think this will make me happy? Aren't you a masochist? Rin Kiyono was surprised. You. Before Toru Watanabe could finish, his phone rang. It was from the group chat. You didn't turn on a reminder? He asked Rin Kiyono, who was also in the group. He opened the interface. Rin Kiyono didn't answer. She just poked her head over and stared at Toru Watanabe's phone screen. The wind blew, and he smelled the faint fragrance of her body amidst the fragrance of the trees. You have your own. Hurry up. Toru Watanabe clicked online. There was a gaming group that talked about game production and baseball games. A Shinanko apartment group that talked about what to eat tonight. A family group that shared summer relaxation methods. He clicked on the Kujo Kiyono Watanabe group chat. Masako, nice photo. Yuko, Kuin Watanabe, take photos for us later. Watanabe, no problem, leave the photos to me. My future goal is to become a professional photographer. You don't hesitate to lie at all, Rin Kiyono said beside him. Actually, every night, I confess to God in my heart 3,000 times. I really don't hesitate at all. More or less. Masako, I also want to be girly. Watanabe, it's time to test my skills. Masako, Watanabe, it's nothing. Miki, so happy. Watanabe, no. Miki, if you don't, then why don't you come in? Watanabe. Oh. Do you want to go in? He asked Rin Kiyono. Rin Kiyono's eyes showed a thoughtful look. She muttered. Let's go in and take a look. If those people say anything bad about you, I'll crucify them. Lies. Call a bird to shit on their heads? I don't care what those people think of me. But I care, so it's decided. The first time they scolded you, I didn't care, but the second time, I'll embarrass them a little. You can command birds. How is that possible? I want to see it. Show it to me later. Listen to me carefully. The two of them walked into the church. Toru Watanabe sat beside Miki Kujo, and Rin Kiyono sat behind them in a row. Miki Kujo looked straight ahead. She spread her hands at Toru Watanabe and hooked her finger. Toru Watanabe obediently put his phone in her hand. Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono clicked on the photo album with slender and beautiful fingers. When she saw the first photo, she snorted contemptuously. Delete. The second photo. Hands behind your back. Delete. The third photo. She looked at it from afar and sneered. It looks pretty good. Delete. This scene seemed familiar. Toru Watanabe secretly glanced back at Rin Kiyono. She was looking at the choir in boredom. Toru Watanabe gave her a look, hinting for her to look at Miki Kujo. Rin Kiyono looked over. Miki Kujo tilted her head and stared at her swimsuit photo album. Does it look like you? Boring. Rin Kiyono retracted her gaze and continued to look at the choir. The next moment, she buried her beautiful face in her hands and shook her slender shoulders. It seemed that the previous scene had hit her funny spot. The performance lasted for an unexpectedly long time. Halfway through, Toru Watanabe, whose phone could withstand anyone's inspection, and who didn't want to hide anything from them, bid farewell to the ladies. Xiaolian couldn't be completely at ease leaving her alone on the lawn. They left the forest and saw Xiaolian and Keiho playing a handkerchief game with a group of people. As they sang, they circled around a person, a ghost, who was squatting in a circle. When the person singing stopped, the ghost had to guess who was behind them. The person who was guessed correctly became the next ghost. The childlike singing and cheerful laughter made the tourists stop in their tracks. I had a lot of fun, Miki Kujo said. Xiaolian, who was surrounded in the middle, had a serious expression and didn't even notice their arrival. Let's take a walk on the street. Toru Watanabe laughed. After that, he raised his voice and shouted at the small face on the lawn. Xiaolian. Ache. Xiaolian looked back. Ah. Lianchan cheated. This game doesn't count. Let's start again. Xiaolian suddenly realized that she was still playing a game, and hurriedly turned back. It seemed that there was no need to tell her where they were going. The three of them didn't deliberately walk all the way to the end of the street. They saw a coffee shop and wanted to sit down, so they went in. The coffee shop was decorated in an old-fashioned style, gentle and elegant. On both sides of the long and narrow aisle were private booths with 4 people in a row. It was private and quiet. They sat near the coffee shop's inner courtyard, where they could see the old trees. It seemed to be a chestnut tree with emerald green thorny fruits hanging on it. The roots of the tree were covered with the beautiful moss that Qing Yiren had mentioned. It's said that Karuizawa occasionally has sun, rain and thunder showers, Toru Watanabe said. I hope to see it once this month. Your clothes are all wet. What's there to see? Miki Kujo took a sip of coffee and put it down because it was too hot. The cup she used was a new cup that was sold in the shop and had been scalded with hot water. Of course it's uncomfortable to be wet, but I think that there are many things in the world, such as eating horse sashimi. Although you won't eat it a second time, it's still worth eating it the first time. After that, he concluded, whether it's sunny or rainy, I want to experience it. The 2 girls were dispensable, so it wasn't clear whether they agreed with this point of view. Toru Watanabe didn't try to get their approval or refutation. The conversation started casually and ended very casually. I heard that you spoke up for me just now, Rin Kiyono said to Miki Kujo as she sniffed the mellow aroma of the coffee. Miki Kujo looked up at Toru Watanabe. You're too naive if you want us to be reconciled with such a small thing. What can I do to make you two be reconciled? Toru Watanabe asked them, and also asked himself. Lick my shoes. Call me sister. Toru Watanabe looked at the courtyard, where the old trees were dense and the sky was bright, but the courtyard was cool and shady. I told you, you're too close to her and can't think calmly. You can't look at her objectively and think of everything from her point of view. When you calm down, maybe you can find a way. Miki Kujo stirred the coffee with a spoon. It took a long time for summer coffee to be cooled down to a suitable temperature for drinking. You can't look at me objectively? Rin Kiyono repeated this sentence carefully. Then Watanabe-san, what do you think of me? What else can I think of you? Just like that. Toru Watanabe replied. I'd like to hear it too. Miki Kujo stopped stirring the coffee. Toru Watanabe took a sip of the coffee. He didn't know when it started, but he wasn't afraid of the cold or the heat. He remembered that a long time ago, he would still feel cold in his shabby rental apartment in the rain. The sticky feeling of his shoes being wet once again crept into his heart. It was as annoying as the salmon in the supermarket. 1 slice wasn't enough, and 2 slices were too much. This was all in the past. You can't say it? Miki Kujo asked. I'm thinking. Lies. Start thinking now. Toru Watanabe put down his coffee cup and stroked the patterns on the wooden chopping board with his fingers. I can't think of anything to say if you suddenly want me to. Let's take the people who were talking about her behind her back as an example. The 2 of them quietly waited for him to continue. I think that they're a bunch of bastards. Toru Watanabe's tone was very calm. They know, all of them combined, can't even compare to a single strand of Kiyono-san's hair. Rin Kiyono smiled knowingly at Toru Watanabe amidst the faint steam from the coffee. I'm surprised that you can tolerate her. Miki Kujo continued stirring the coffee. I'm lucky that Kiyono-san can tolerate me as well. Why can you tolerate her? Miki Kujo asked Rin Kiyono. Because Watanabe-san is the only person who believes from the bottom of his heart that there's nothing wrong with what I'm doing. He thinks that my current posture is beautiful. Rin Kiyono spoke in a flat tone as if it wasn't worth mentioning. As long as he thinks that way, he'll never be able to find a way for us to reconcile. Miki Kujo said lightly. Compared to reconciling with you, it's more important for him to maintain this mindset. The choice isn't yours. Miki Kujo turned to look at Toru Watanabe. What do you want to do? Reconcile and maintain this mindset? Can't the two of them coexist? Toru Watanabe asked. No, Miki Kujo replied. She put down her spoon and rested her chin on her folded hands as she looked at Toru Watanabe. What do you plan to do? Toru Watanabe looked at the cup of coffee in front of him. There's only Miki. No matter what, I want the two of you to reconcile. Miki Kujo picked up the cup of coffee. Although it was still hot, it was still drinkable. What exactly do you plan to do, Watanabe-san? Rin Kiyono asked Toru Watanabe. He stared blankly at the cup of coffee in front of him. His own absent-minded reflection could be seen in the cup. It seems that you haven't thought of a way yet. Rin Kiyono raised his cup and took a sip of coffee. The three of them fell silent as they each sipped their coffee. The cultural festival will be held at the beginning of the semester. What is the Human Observation Department planning to do this year? Toru Watanabe suddenly asked. There's no need to be in such a hurry. Rin Kiyono obviously didn't like the cultural festival. Every society must have a program. Since we have nothing to do right now, isn't it better to think about it early? If we make a movie like last year, Karuizawa is a ready-made filming location. We'll talk about it in a couple of days. Miki Kujo sipped her coffee as she looked out at the courtyard. Toru Watanabe nodded. He stirred the cup of coffee with his spoon, and his reflection disappeared. There's still some time before school starts anyways, he said calmly. They sat there and slowly sipped their coffee, chatting here and there. When they felt that it was time to leave, the three of them left. Chapter 312. Toru Watanabe lay on the bed, thinking about the things that happened during the day. He kept thinking about that sentence over and over again. You and Rin Kiyono are too close. You can't think calmly, you can't look at her objectively. You think of everything from her point of view. It was almost impossible to think calmly and objectively. Every time Toru Watanabe saw Rin Kiyono, he felt that she seemed to become more beautiful, as if her body was shining. He wanted to surpass her eyes, her smile, her beautiful long hair, and her clear and awe-inspiring figure to see what she looked like. Unless he wasn't him, he couldn't do it. Miki Kujo came out of the bathroom. Help me blow-dry my hair. Toru Watanabe sat up, adjusted the temperature of the hairdryer, and slowly dried her hair. Miki Kujo's long hair was very gorgeous. The difference between it and Rin Kiyono's was that one was as black and shiny as lead powder, while the other was as deep and charming as the night. Miki Kujo closed her eyes, felt the heat of the hairdryer, and let him play with her long hair. After drying her hair, she went to the mirror for a while. When she came back and lay down on the bed, Toru Watanabe pulled her into his arms. His hands hugged her waist from behind, and his body was pressed against her back. Not today, we have to get up early tomorrow. Oi, he answered like a child, and his forehead rested on her shoulder. Miki Kujo felt Toru Watanabe's affection for her. It was very comfortable to be hugged by him in the warm bed. It's really difficult to think calmly. Toru Watanabe's hot breath hit her skin through her pajamas. What's wrong? She asked. Are you still thinking about Rin Kiyono? I've tried to look at her objectively, but I can't. Is it that difficult? Just like how I can't look at you objectively. Toru Watanabe rubbed his face against her back. From his actions, she could tell that he enjoyed hugging her. Why do you need to look at me objectively? You should be completely biased towards me. Miki Kujo turned her head slightly and looked at him. Give me an example. That won't do. If you can't, then you can't. Toru Watanabe looked at her delicate little face. Because she turned her head, her hair ran over her face. He reached out and gently pushed her away. Looking at her rosy lips, he could not help but kiss her. After kissing for a while, Miki Kujo pushed him away. If they continued to kiss, it would be more than just a kiss. With her back facing Toru Watanabe, she arched her body slightly in his arms. How do you want to view me objectively? He did not allow Toru Watanabe to look at him objectively, but he was also interested in how Toru Watanabe intended to look at him objectively. It's really just an example. You didn't fall for it. Good girl. Of course I'm smart. Toru Watanabe still hugged her from behind. As soon as his hand reached her chest, it was immediately pulled to her stomach. As a reward, I'll give you permission. What permission? This. Toru Watanabe's hand reached out to her stomach, but it was pulled back again. Hitting Toru Watanabe's hand, Miki Kujo said, I'll allow you to talk about how to look at me objectively. How else can I look at you objectively? Toru Watanabe could not move his hand. He could only press his lips against her snow-white neck. You used to kill people and have a bad temper. Why are you so troublesome when you go out for a meal? Miki Kujo sneered. She left Toru Watanabe's arms, turned around and kicked him to the edge of the bed. Miki, you'll sleep there tonight. Let me finish. Toru Watanabe crawled back with a smile. I'm sleeping. Miki Kujo wrapped herself in the quilt and turned her back to him. I said I can't look at you objectively. Toru Watanabe lay on top of her and hugged her together with the quilt. Even if you did a lot of bad things in the past, your personality is still bad and your obsession with cleanliness is troublesome. I still like you. You dare to continue? Kujio Miyoshi turned around and looked up at him. I can't say that Miki is gentle and kind, and that she scrubs my back every day, right? Toru Watanabe laughed. Do you believe that yourself? Of course I do. Why wouldn't I believe it? You're really shameless. Shameless? Miki Kujo was about to kick Toru Watanabe away again. Toru Watanabe took the opportunity to lift the quilt, got in, and hugged her tightly from behind. Let go. I won't let go. Toru Watanabe. Yes. I told you to let go. Go to sleep, go to sleep. We have to get up early tomorrow. Miki Kujo wriggled in his arms a few times, and finally stopped moving. The bedroom was so quiet that one could almost hear the sound of the wind blowing the leaves in the forest. After a while, Miki Kujo's voice sounded in the darkness. Are you done kissing me? Raise your leg. Toru Watanabe's lips temporarily left her neck. Get lost. Toru Watanabe's lips began to attack her collarbone and chin, and at the same time, his hands began to move. Miki Kujo pressed his hands down. Her neck was comfortable and itchy, and she couldn't help but twist twice. I said I won't do it today. Sister, raise your leg. You're so shameless. Who's your sister? Sister Miki Jijia. Miki Kujo raised her leg a little, and Toru Watanabe held it and raised it a little higher. She let out a low moan. As expected, the two of us still have to be like this. Toru Watanabe sighed comfortably. Silence followed, but this time, there was a sound in the bedroom. After a while, Miki Kujo panted and said, When I said calm and objective, I didn't mean for you to put her in the same position as everyone else. Listen to me. Say it. You can't look at her objectively, because, Their lips parted, and Miki Kujo continued while controlling her body. You just want me to get back together with her, then you just need to look at the two of us objectively. Sister, if I don't favor you, whose personality can you compare to? What did you say? My character should always. Don't stop. Toru Watanabe couldn't be bothered to explain, and focused on doing his own thing. Compared to her, my personality isn't good enough? You're allowed to have two lovers. Who else would agree to something like that other than me? Okay, you're the best. And it has nothing to do with personality. When it comes to getting back together, just look at how she treats me, and how I treat her. That's enough. Makes sense. The two of you can't be friends with someone else. You know how to calm down and look at her objectively? Actually, I had some ideas this afternoon, and now I'm more open-minded. Miki Kujo sighed. What do you plan to do? Let her take the initiative to get back together with you. Let her? If you can do that, I'll wipe your back for you. You're so eager to help me. You want to get back together with her that much? Yeah. Toru Watanabe stopped. What's wrong? Miki Kujo turned around to look at him. Looking at her flushed face that was dripping with sweat, Toru Watanabe stared at her. Miki, you don't have to worry about our relationship anymore. Miki Kujo turned her face away. I think you like her so much that you're about to give up everything. Give up anything, but I can't give up on you. I'll always belong to you. Who knows? If you say I can't be objective, I can't be objective now either. Didn't you say I have a bad temper and that you find me troublesome? Your temper is cute, and as long as I say it, you'll always accommodate me. Your troublesome misophobia, there's nothing better than that. Other than me. I can't wait for you to not touch anything. You like me that much? Yeah. Toru Watanabe hugged Miki Kujo from behind, burying his face in her beautiful hair. From now on, no matter how hot it is, I'll wear a jacket. No matter how cold it is, I'll take off my clothes. Can we continue? If not, I'm going to sleep. Are you shy? Sleep. Yeah. After breakfast on the villa's terrace, Xiaoyan learned a foreign language from Rin Kiyono. The English word for dragonfly is dragonfly. It's spelled D-R-A-G-O-N-F-A-L-Y. Dragonfly. Say it again, dragonfly. Rin Kiyono's English was beautiful and standard. Dragonfly. Xiaoyan imitated her accent. While learning, her eyes were always on the path leading to the road. When they parted yesterday evening, Keiho told her that she would come to play with her early in the morning, but she still hadn't come when it was almost 8 o'clock. After learning the 3 English words lawn, finger, and friend, she heard the tinkling of bicycle bells. Lianchan. A large group of children, all about her age, swarmed over on bicycles. Kori-chan. Are you going to play? Xiaoyan looked at Rin Kiyono. Sister Rin, I want to play with Kori-chan. Rin Kiyono looked at the time. It was exactly 8 o'clock. Don't go to remote places. Remember to call if you need anything, she said to Xiaoyan. Yeah. Xiaoyan left the terrace and pushed her children's bicycle towards Keiho and the others. She was wearing the clothes she bought in Karuizawa. She was as fashionable and beautiful as the others. Kori-chan, where are we going to play today? She asked methodically. Today we're going to teach these people how to ride bicycles. Keiho pointed to the children behind her and said in a little adult tone. I don't know if they're smart enough. I hope they won't trouble me too much. I'll be the first to learn. I'll be the first. The group of little girls started to make a racket. Xiaoyan, you also know how to ride a bicycle. You can also be a teacher. Oh, I know how to ride a bicycle. I want to be a teacher. The group of children noisily left, and the sound of birds came from the forest again. Mrs. Kiyono came out and looked at the 3 people on the terrace. Xiaoyan left? You said you were going to ride a horse today. I'll take a day off. Rin Kiyono said. She had already taken out a book and was ready to read. How can that be? Mrs. Kiyono suddenly thought of a good idea and said, how about playing tennis? Let's have a game. The loser will be responsible for today's lunch and dinner. All lunch and dinner for this month. Toru Watanabe said. You're very confident, Kun Watanabe. Mrs. Kujo came out from behind Mrs. Kiyono. It's because I don't want to. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a problem for me to win the world championship. Toru Watanabe said lazily. Since you're the world champion, the 4 of us will form 2 pairs and take turns to play with you. Is that okay? Mrs. Kujo patted Toru Watanabe's shoulder. Miki Kujo stared at her mother's hand. Rin, Mrs. Sano said happily. Good luck, I'm counting on you. In school physical education, he has to use despicable means to deal with me alone, let alone a pair. Rin Kiyono was still reading the book and said lightly. That's for you. Toru Watanabe said. Despair DSPARIOR. Littling, can you continue to let him be so arrogant? I can't stand it anymore. Mrs. Kujo's hand was still on Toru Watanabe's shoulder. She was talking to Rin Kiyono, but no matter how you looked at it, she was with Toru Watanabe. Rin Kiyono closed the book. Who am I with? Miki. I also want to arrange it that way, but Miki probably won't agree. Mrs. Kiyono said. I'll be with Ling. Miki Kujo stared at her mother's hand and said. After defeating Kun Watanabe, it will be the match between mother and daughter. Go change your tennis clothes. After that, Kujo patted Toru Watanabe's shoulder and turned to go into the room with Kiyono. Toru Watanabe brushed his shoulder as if there was something dirty on it. Indeed, Mrs. Kujo's conspiracy was unscrupulous in order to make Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono a team. The four of them changed into tennis clothes and put on tennis caps. For pairs of long bare legs on the court were already against the rules. It was easy for people to be distracted. "Let's go, Kun Watanabe." The four of them waited for him outside the villa. Toru Watanabe directly jumped out of the balcony and pinched Miki Kujo's skirt with his fingers and lifted it to look. "Okay." He put it down with satisfaction. "Ah." The other three looked at him speechlessly. Their skirts were long enough almost to their knees, but they couldn't be short of safety pants. "Does it look good?" Miki Kujo pulled his ear and said, "Yes." Toru Watanabe nodded. "Safety pants are the greatest invention in the world. So it's because of this." Mrs. Kiyono covered her mouth and laughed. "Don't you want to check little Rin's? Please don't worry, I'm wearing it." Rin Kiyono covered her skirt and put on a vigilant look. "Kun Watanabe, I also." "Mrs. Kujo, why are you all right? You know that I'm your mother. Why don't you help me get the racket?" Mrs. Kujo's expression changed instantly, and she put on the posture of wearing a kimono and scolded him with a dignified tone. "Miki." Toru Watanabe patted the small hand on his ear, indicating that he wanted to get the racket himself. "Yes. Well, my mother called me." Mrs. Kujo and Mrs. Kiyono looked at this scene and laughed. They arrived at the tennis court surrounded by green trees. Perhaps because it was still early, there were only 2 girls playing. Their movements looked quite professional, and their tennis uniforms were shockingly short, but they also had safety pants. Toru Watanabe stood on the court and said arrogantly, "Which team will go first?" Rin Kiyono sneered and went on the court with the racket, showing the same arrogance. Miki Kujo glanced at Rin Kiyono and went on the court. 1 point per ball, 1 point. The first team to win by 10 points. Mrs. Kiyono became the referee. Toru Watanabe served first. He patted the tennis ball on the ground, then threw it into the air and hit it with a light swing. Rin Kiyono, who was standing in front, easily hit the ball back at a tricky angle. Toru Watanabe accurately caught the ball on the far left side of the court. Rin Kiyono was about to move, but stopped when he heard footsteps behind him. With the sound of sports shoes stepping on the grass, Miki Kujo jumped up and hit the ball to the far right side of the field with a beautiful and powerful posture. "Long live Miki-sama!" Toru Watanabe shouted as he ran to hit the ball back. As soon as he finished speaking, Rin Kiyono hit a rapid drop ball over the net. "Not bad, not bad." Toru Watanabe's footsteps were nimble and his body was strong. He ran to the net and hit the ball back easily. Miki Kujo swung the racket again, and the ball shot to the back of the court like a bullet. "Long live Miki-sama!" Toru Watanabe jumped up and hit the ball back. Rin Kiyono hit the ball from a tricky angle to Toru Watanabe's left side. "Actually, I'm a 2-blade player." Toru Watanabe quickly swapped the racket and hit the ball back. Actually, he didn't have to do it deliberately, but looking at the 2 young ladies' beautiful legs and flying skirts, he couldn't help but be in high spirits. This is feeding, right? The 2 ladies looked at the back-and-forth tennis match that seemed to last until the end of the world. The 2 young ladies' angles were very tricky, and they were doubles. One of them hit the ball to the far left, and the other hit the ball to the far right. If it were someone else, even if they could handle it for a while, they would be tired after a while, and their legs wouldn't be able to run. But Toru Watanabe easily remembered and hit the ball back at the easiest angle to catch. Rin Kiyono couldn't take it anymore, and was so tired that she dropped the racket on the ground. Miki Kujo often took blood chi medicine, but it was only to nourish her body and didn't exercise. Her physical strength didn't increase much and she couldn't take it anymore. Because she was too tired, she didn't have the strength to catch the ball no matter how easy it was to catch it. Toru Watanabe easily won. Just how much physical strength does this guy have? Rin Kiyono sat on the bench. Toru Watanabe ran all over the court, shouting, "Long live Miki-sama! Nice shot! Wow, despicable Kiyono-san!" and so on. More than you can imagine. Miki Kujo took a sip of water. "Do you know why I can't get up in the morning?" Rin Kiyono looked at her coldly. Miki Kujo took another sip of water. The 2 ladies went on the court. "Kun Watanabe, We won't let you rest. Don't say that we won with an unfair advantage. I won't. Come on. Mrs. Kiyono served the ball in a dignified manner. It seemed that she was as agile as her daughter. Toru Watanabe hit the ball with his racket, as if he were swinging a knife. Bang! The ball hit the ground at Mrs. Kiyono's feet at an extremely high speed, and then bounced out of bounds. Hey, Koen Watanabe! Mrs. Kiyono reacted. You weren't like this just now. Of course the world champion has a different style of play. That's exactly what I wanted. Mrs. Kujo held the racket with both hands. That slow game just now was boring to me. Let's have a real game. Toru Watanabe served the ball. When he threw the ball, it looked like it was going to be thrown into the clouds. When he jumped, it looked like it was going to fly. Bang! The ball hit the barbed wire fence behind the two ladies. Hey, Koen Watanabe, you weren't like this just now, Mrs. Kujo said. Judging from her attitude, she had obviously forgotten that she wanted a real game. Ladies, Toru Watanabe said, they're the only ones who are special to me. Wow, they're so bold, Mrs. Kiyono said like a little girl. At the same time, Mrs. Kujo secretly sent the ball over. Toru Watanabe stepped left with his left leg, swung his arm, and returned the ball at an extremely high speed. One of them is my best friend, and the other is my girlfriend. Koen Watanabe, look. Mrs. Kujo spun around and her skirt flew up. Mrs. Kiyono served the ball. It was clearly Toru Watanabe's turn to serve. Who wants to see Auntie's safety pants? Toru Watanabe took the ball back. Mrs. Kujo held the racket, and with a cold face, she walked over with her arms crossed. Wrong, I'm sorry. Hey. Mrs. Kiyono secretly served the ball. The racket cut through the air and bounced to the ground with a crisp sound. Great! 1 o'clock. Mrs. Kujo and Mrs. Kiyono, who had wanted to fight a moment ago, happily high-fived each other. Forget about the sneak attack. Where are my 3 points? Toru Watanabe shouted. That was just a warm-up. Referee. Toru Watanabe shouted from behind the two ladies. 1 o'clock, Miki Kujo said. I protest. The player bribed the referee, and their relatives. Protest overruled, the original judgment is upheld. Where's the Kiyono classmate who never lies? Kiyono classmate looked at the clouds in the distance, relieving the tightness in her chest after the strenuous exercise. Chapter 313. After confirming that this month's lunch and dinner would be prepared by the two wives, playing tennis with Toru Watanabe became a very comfortable thing. Toru Watanabe's balls were the kind that required a bit of effort to receive. This allowed them to fully enjoy the satisfaction and feeling of hitting the ball back. They happily played for 2.5 hours with slender and beautiful legs. At 11 o'clock, the 5 people packed up their rackets and kettles and returned to the villa. During Chinese New Year, Shinsuke said that Koen Watanabe is an all-around genius. At that time, I didn't think much of it, but now I slowly understand. Mrs. Kujo praised with a rosy complexion and a carefree feeling after exercising. How can there be an all-around genius? I'm only good at reading, sports, and music. Toru Watanabe said. That's great. Mrs. Kiyono said with a smile. Let's go horse riding some other day. At that time, I'll make you lose face. Mother, Rin Kiyono's temples were wet with sweat, and a strand of long hair gracefully stuck to her white face. Watanabe classmate said that. You can just treat it as a lie. Please pay attention to your wording, Kiyono classmate. The honest image that I've created for many years will be destroyed by you. What does Miki think? Mrs. Kujo intimately pressed her shoulder against her daughter's shoulder. No matter how much I favor him, it's hard to say that he's an honest person. This girl liked to hold grudges. I agree. Rin Kiyono nodded. Can you two be a bit more persistent? Don't suddenly seem to make up when you're bullying me. Koen Watanabe, why don't you be the bad guy for once and bully both of them at the same time? Mrs. Kiyono smiled very happily fiddling with her delicate short hair. Good idea. For people like me, only if they work together, there's a small chance that they can defeat me. Who was the one that I kicked to the side of the bed and then pitifully crawled over to beg me? Who was it? I don't know who it was, but after being glared at by me, he shrunk there for a long time without saying a word. Mickey's story can still be made into a half-truth after some editing, but Kiyono, what a terrifying and cold gaze. Toru Watanabe pretended as if nothing had happened and whistled Jingle Bells. Ha ha ha. The ladies laughed happily. Qin Yi-rin covered his mouth with his hand, but there was a trace of a smile on his face. Miki Kujo poked Toru Watanabe's butt with her racket. Toru Watanabe jumped away and held the racket in a swordsmanship posture, shouting, "Come! You still dare to fight back?" Miki Kujo chased after Toru Watanabe. Wrong. I was wrong. I'm sorry. The call of a cuckoo bird came from the forest. On the green branches, an unknown bird jumped around. When the forest was dyed red, Xiaolian came back on her bicycle, sweating profusely. I'm back. She ran to the kitchen and poured a glass of water with great difficulty. She raised her head and drank it. Did you have fun today? Toru Watanabe put down the book in his hand. We were at the golf course the whole time. Xiaolian put down the glass and wiped the sweat from her forehead. Golf course? Toru Watanabe doubtfully asked. There's a wide road there, and there are fewer people than other places. Are you practicing cycling over there? Mrs. Kujio's last question was directed at Xiaolian. Yes. Xiaolian obediently nodded her head. Ah. Mrs. Kiyono suddenly regretfully held her forehead, but her posture was also very elegant. You should have played golf. Maybe you could have beaten Koen Watanabe. Then you might have lost even more miserably, Rin Kiyono said without raising her head. Koen Watanabe even knows how to play golf? Mrs. Kiyono said with a trace of disbelief. He can learn it now. I don't believe it. Mrs. Kiyono held her chin in her hand and said to Toru Watanabe, Koen Watanabe, go play golf tomorrow. The loser has to take out the trash? You're so cruel. There are bats in Qingjing Lake at night. Xiaolian put down the glass and ran to the dining table. Toru Watanabe pulled out the chair next to him for her, and she climbed onto it. Ache, we're going to be a teacher tomorrow. She swung her two short legs and looked up at Toru Watanabe. Those people haven't learned yet? Toru Watanabe helped her tidy up her bangs. Yes. Xiaolian nodded first, and then said in a tone as if she had discovered a new continent. Ache, we also saw adults learning to ride bicycles. That little rascal Jiaji must have laughed at those adults. Xiaolian widened her eyes and said in surprise, How did you know? I have clairvoyance. Amazing, clairvoyance is amazing. Xiaolian held her face and said with an intoxicated expression. When Rin Kiyono turned the page of the book, she raised her head and glanced at Toru Watanabe. Toru Watanabe pretended not to see. That's right. Xiaolian recovered from the amazement of clairvoyance. Kaori-chan said that she's also a student at St. Elementary School. So you're still classmates? Toru Watanabe nodded. Yes. Xiaolian's mood suddenly calmed down for some reason. Next year we won't be first-year students at Jianza Elementary School, but second-year students at St. Elementary School. Toru Watanabe patted her head. In the next few days, after the morning class with Rin Kiyono, Xiaolian pushed her children's bicycle and played with Jiaji and the other children. Every day, she would play until she was sweaty and dirty. During dinner, the other 5 people listened to her talk about what happened during the day. Keiho was indeed familiar with every nook and cranny of Lightwell Marsh. She knew which forest had the rhinoceros beetles, which birds were chirping, which streams had fireflies. She even knew which Minamoto clan fireflies and Haika clan fireflies. On August 5th, Kaoru Hayami and Aoi Ichiki sent word that the wind ensemble had successfully advanced to the next round. Even if we can't go nationwide, at least we'll have something to do this summer. Toru Watanabe said. The Tokyo University competition was held on August 25th. After the competition ended, they got rid of their feelings of frustration and started school. We'll definitely advance to the next round. A few days later, Xiaolian's parents received a letter and called her. That afternoon, Xiaolian stuffed more photos into the red mailbox. The next day, the Koshian Academy competition also began. Xiaolian ran out to play. Two madams were invited to visit another villa. One madam said that she would give them delicious red wine to drink. Rin Kiyono was reading a book on the balcony. Toru Watanabe and Miki Kujo were sitting on the sofa together watching the opening ceremony. The crowd was noisy, and the air was distorted by the heat. Almost all of the audience members were wearing sun hats, umbrellas, and other protective gear. The baseball players on the field were blinded by the glare of the sun. It was a scorching summer. When Kamigawa appeared on the field, Uchida, who had suffered heatstroke during the regional finals, was closely followed by the girl holding the raven emblem. Behind her were 20 to 30 players, including Osamu Kanai. The raven emblem was printed on their baseball uniforms and caps, making them look unique. When the camera moved away from Kamigawa, Toru Watanabe turned off the television. What should we do next? He placed his hand on Miki Kujo's thigh. Miki Kujo waved his hand away. Go and bring the canvas outside. I'll teach you how to draw. Okay, Miki-sensei. Toru Watanabe stood up. There's a real teacher here. You don't need to pretend to be my teacher and student, right? Miki Kujo said sarcastically. You're not my older sister. Right, older sister has a ready-made one too. You'll always be my older sister. The studio had been used a few days ago, and it was filled with the smell of paint. There was a floor-to-ceiling window in the studio, and outside the window, there was a beautiful natural scenery. On this bright and beautiful morning, the decorations in the room reflected a thin layer of light as the sunlight streamed in through the floor-to-ceiling window. It felt as if there was a gramophone under a canvas. Miki Kujo walked in and helped carry paint, brushes, knives, and other small tools. Toru Watanabe carried easels, drawing stools, umbrellas, and other heavy or bulky tools. The two of them sat in front of the villa and painted while facing Rin Kiyono, who was reading on the balcony. Rin Kiyono only glanced at them at the beginning when they were setting up the easels. The rest of the time, she pretended that they didn't exist. The 9 o'clock wind in Karuizawa was cool and pleasant. They sat on the drawing stools and basked in the warm sunlight. The soft sunlight passed through the gaps between the leaves and gently shone on Rin Kiyono's arm on the drawing board. No matter how the outside world was turned upside down, whether it was passion, failure, or sweat, whether it was playing music or koshien, they maintained the same simple, natural, and happy appearance as before. The two ladies came back with wine. Miki's painting can be exhibited in an art gallery. Mrs. Kujo praised. Of course. Mrs. Kiyono didn't know why she felt proud. Her daughter was clearly the one on the balcony. Let me see Koen Watanabe's. Mrs. Kujo looked over and then laughed. Koen Watanabe. It could be heard that she was trying to control her breathing. Did you let Rin see your painting? I'm an abstractionist. I don't care about appearance. Toru Watanabe rinsed the brush in the brush washing bucket, like seasoning a barbecue. What do you see in Miki? Mrs. Kujo asked again. Miki is the only exception. I like her beauty. Toru Watanabe knocked the brush on the brush washing bucket, like dripping water on a mop. You always have a reason. Miki Kujo finished the final process of the painting. She stood up and stretched her soft and beautiful body that had been sitting for a long time. Toru Watanabe picked up the brush and wrote in the lower right corner of her painting. Toru Watanabe painted in Kingjings. When the cicadas are noisy, it seems that there is a forest fire. Looking at it with satisfaction, he turned to ask the two ladies and Miki Kujo, what do you think? Before the three of them made an expression, he remembered and said, yes, and here. He also wrote in the lower right corner of the abstractionist painting. Miki Kujo painted in Kingjings. When I was 17 years old, when I was 16 years old. The wind is warm and the cicadas are crisp. I'm satisfied. Toru Watanabe said happily. So you're this kind of person? Miki Kujo nodded. A smart person? Toru Watanabe asked. A fake person, Miki Kujo said. A vain person, Mrs. Kujo added. Toru Watanabe looked at Mrs. Kiyono and waited for her comment. Mrs. Kiyono was stunned. She put her finger on her chin and said, a person who likes to be scolded? Please respect the truth and don't talk nonsense. Toru Watanabe admired his own painting and couldn't help but nod and say, I'm the only person in the world who can paint Rin Kiyono's high and mighty, fresh and natural temperament. There are many art galleries in Kingjings. I'll take you to see them tomorrow. Don't embarrass the Kujo family. Mrs. Kujo took his right hand and stuffed the wine into his palm. I'll be fine in the afternoon, Toru Watanabe said. I'll take you horse riding in the afternoon. Mrs. Kiyono also gave him the wine in her hand. Isn't this wine? Toru Watanabe looked at the wine in his left hand that Mrs. Kiyono stuffed into his hand. Brandy. Mrs. Kiyono's tone was pleasant and relaxed. Kavado's apple brandy. This wine tastes good and is suitable for women. After lunch, the five of them went to the horse ranch, which was not far from the golf course. In the afternoon, many rich people were riding horses. Before they reached the horse ranch, they saw people riding horses through the forest. Can we ride outside? Toru Watanabe asked curiously. Of course, Mrs. Kiyono said. In Kingjings, the nobles and the rich used horses as a means of transportation. I see. Toru Watanabe was a little interested. After arriving at Kingjings, he learned that they had to ride horses. He learned some knowledge about riding horses. There was a special equestrian skill, which was to ride in the field to train the tacit understanding between the man and the horse and demonstrate various skills, such as circling the barrel and so on. There was also wild riding, which was to let the horse gallop. Galloping horses in the prairie did not necessarily require high skills. It was enough to sign up for a grassland riding class. Toru Watanabe was not interested in participating in the equestrian competition, so he was not interested in coming to the horse ranch at the beginning. He only thought it was to enrich his knowledge. Now that he knew that he could ride outside, his mood was finally a little better. When he arrived at the horse ranch, he changed into his uniform, put on his riding boots, put on his helmet, and took his whip. The four of them looked valiant and noble, and Toru Watanabe, who looked extraordinarily handsome and noble. Everything suited him very well. The four people stared at him for several times, and Toru Watanabe also looked at them. This was mutual appreciation. Kuen Watanabe, Mrs. Kiyono said, "This is the horse I prepared for you for your birthday. I specially asked someone to transport it from Tokyo." Toru Watanabe looked at the white horse in front of him. The glossy horse skin was like silk, rippling like water with the horse's movements. It was as tall as an adult from its hooves to its back, and the staff who led it just reached the position of the horse's back. The horse was surrounded by a group of people and looked very uneasy. Occasionally, it raised its front hooves, which could step down from the top of a person's head. It was frightening. Seeing it, people would almost immediately think of the word tall horse. It has the blood of the Sharma horse and the Ahar horse. Mrs. Kiyono introduced. The Sharma horse was famous for its height, strength, and endurance. It could pull a weight of 5 tons. The so-called Ahar horse had slender limbs, thin fur, light steps, great strength, fast speed, and endurance. With so many advantages, it was naturally a Fergana horse. The horse has been trained by circling, but no one has ridden it, so it still retains its wild nature. Please be careful, young master. The staff leading the horse said. Can you conquer your own horse, Kuen Watanabe? Mrs. Kujo smiled. Be careful. Rin Kiyono frowned. Such a tall horse don't fall to its death. Your way of caring for people is very special, Toru Watanabe said, walking toward the horse. As he approached, the horse became more and more uneasy, constantly turning its head. The staff had to work very hard to hold the reins. When Toru Watanabe approached and tried to take the reins from the staff, the horse suddenly raised its front hooves. At that height, its hooves really stepped on the top of an adult's head. Be careful. Miki Kujo knew Toru Watanabe's ability, but she still couldn't help but say. Scared me to death. Toru Watanabe smiled. The more he looked at the horse, the more handsome he felt it was. He wasn't interested in sports cars, and only liked bumper cars, but he suddenly had some interest in horses. Kuen Watanabe, I'll find you a tamed horse first. Learn how to ride it first, then we'll deal with this horse. Mrs. Kujo suggested. No need. Toru Watanabe refused. He wanted to touch the horse's neck, but the horse suddenly raised its front hooves again. Toru Watanabe reached out and caught it. Amazing, it's quite heavy, he said, carefully letting go, as if he was worried about damaging the horse. The staff opened his mouth wide, pointing at the horse, pointing at Toru Watanabe, and then at the ladies. Finally, he didn't say anything. 900 kilograms, although it only raised its front hooves, but forget it, it's better not to know too much about the world of the rich. Mrs. Kujo hugged her daughter's waist. Miki, are you okay? Miki Kujo pushed her hand away in disgust and said to Toru Watanabe, hurry up and deal with it if you can. No problem, Toru Watanabe said. Baby, be good and listen. Command. The horse sneezed, lowered its head, and intimately rubbed Toru Watanabe's cheek. Chapter 314. Patting the horse's neck, Toru Watanabe turned around and rode on it. When riding a horse, people would subconsciously raise their head, stick out their chest, and straighten their back. Some parents like to let their children learn how to ride a horse in order to shape their children's graceful posture, as well as to train their courage. Toru Watanabe's posture was already good enough. Now that he was wearing a knight's outfit and sitting on a horse, he had a noble and handsome temperament. He could be called a real-life Prince Charming. The ladies couldn't take their eyes off of Toru Watanabe's handsome face, broad shoulders, thin waist, and long legs. Toru Watanabe didn't care about these things. Sitting on a tall horse, he always felt a sense of freedom, as if he didn't need any disguise in life. With a pull of the reins, he could gallop around the world. You tamed it. Mrs. Kiyono was the first to come back to her senses. Under her delicate short hair, her fair little face showed some surprise. Training a horse, riding a horse, as long as you want to learn, you can learn anything. Toru Watanabe looked down at them from above. I was born to ride on everyone's head. Everyone present was stunned for a moment. They couldn't react for a moment, because of the righteousness and self-confidence in his words. Only Rin Kiyono was an exception. Watanabe classmate. She smiled and shouted, please restrain yourself, don't expose your true nature. How can a young person not be arrogant? You usually claim to be the cutest person in the world. I didn't even say anything about you, but you're talking about me. Toru Watanabe smiled and said with dissatisfaction. Rin Kiyono stared at him in annoyance, then showed a very tacit smile. Toru Watanabe pointed at them with his horsewhip. Step back a bit. Take a picture of your young master Watanabe. Very arrogant. Miki Kujo came back to her senses and said with a smile. Travel photos, I'll show them off when I get back. Toru Watanabe immediately admitted defeat. The two ladies didn't care at all. They retreated with a smile and took photos of Toru Watanabe with their phones. Kuin Watanabe, Mrs. Kujo instructed. Strike that pose just now. You look very handsome. I want to save the best one and send it to the group. Toru Watanabe looked straight ahead, deliberately maintaining a calm expression so that the photo would not look fake. After taking 2 photos of this pose, he squeezed the horse's stomach and the horse began to move forward. The horse was tall and had slender limbs. When it paced, its head and neck were high, and its steps were light and elastic. It was like a model, which made Toru Watanabe look even more noble. Where's your son? Mrs. Kiyono couldn't help but praise. Kuin Watanabe, I'm not lying to you. You really are my ideal 17-year-old type. Mrs. Kujo laughed. The two ladies also took out their phones to take photos of him. I'm every 17-year-old girl's ideal type, but I'm Mickey's 17-year-old 1 month away, Toru Watanabe said. You'll be mine at the end of the year, Rin Kiyono said calmly. Miki Kujo put down her phone and turned to look at her. Before Miki Kujo could say anything, a battle broke out. Toru Watanabe hurriedly said, You guys should go ride your horses too. It's boring for me to ride by myself. Weren't you the one who told us to take photos? Mrs. Kiyono pouted like a young girl. That was to divert your attention. I was too proud of myself on the horse just now, so I said something Chinibyu. I'm embarrassed. What's Chinibyu? Mrs. Kujo asked curiously. It's something only the second year of middle school would say. Okay, my beloved Minheim-sama, let's go ride the horses. Not long after, The four of them rode the horses raised at Karuizawa Horse Farm. Mrs. Kujo rode a black British thoroughbred horse, while Mrs. Kiyono rode a brown Arabian horse. Rin Kiyono rode a white Hanoverian horse, while Miki Kujo rode a white Ahar-Ajin horse, which was a Fergana horse. Each of them was very handsome, and they were worth hundreds of thousands to millions of US dollars. Let's see who's faster, Mrs. Kujo said as she squeezed the horse's belly with her slender legs and rushed out. Toru Watanabe was sure that when Kujo Minheim was young, she was definitely a lively and naughty, fierce and competitive girl. Whether it was driving a car or riding a horse, it could be seen that she had extraordinary courage and courage. If such a person sat at the head of the family, she would become the dignified head of the Kujo family. Ah, you're sneaking away again. Mrs. Kiyono raised her whip and chased after them. Shall the three of us also compete? Toru Watanabe pulled the reins and urged the horse to stand at the same starting line as the two young ladies. Okay, the two valiant, beautiful girls replied. The race immediately began. The horse tightened its muscles, raised its four hooves and rushed forward. At this moment, this was its only mission. Toru Watanabe felt the rhythm of the horse and the tension of its muscles. Speed became everything. The wind blew, bringing with it the most natural and refreshing smell of Karuizawa Plateau. Toru Watanabe felt carefree and forgot all his worries. He raised his whip and shouted at the sky in front of him. I am the king of the world. As if it could feel his lofty aspirations, the horse under him ran faster and faster, like a sharp arrow. Miki Kujo and Rin Kiyono rode their own horses and followed him closely. On the horse track, people who were strolling slowly, trotting, or galloping on their horses were all overtaken by them. The three of them could attract attention with just their outstanding appearance. At this moment, they were wearing night attire and looked heroic. Their horsemanship was superb, and they became the focus of the entire horse track. White clouds floated in the sky. The sky was blue. Straight and wide grass, with green larch trees on both sides. They galloped through this scenery. The first to reach their destination was Mrs. Kujo, who had sneaked away. No one's horse was bad. Even if Toru Watanabe could command the horse, he couldn't make it break through its limits. Directly ordering her horse to stop was one way to go about it. Haha, I'm still first this year. Kujo Masakazu held her head high and puffed out her chest. Coupled with her white and youthful skin, it was as if she had returned to the time when she was 20 years old. Because you sneak away every year. Mrs. Kiyono laughed. Winning is winning. Losers shouldn't always find excuses for themselves. You used despicable means to win, but what about your true ability? In any case, I'm better than you. Shameless. Wait until you stop sneaking away. The two ladies chatted happily. Just like Toru Watanabe when he got on the horse, they completely let go of their identities and bickered with each other. Just now, I heard someone call herself the king of the world? Kujo Masakazu urged her horse to Toru Watanabe and the others. I shouted. The original words were, Kujo Masakazu is the king of the world. Toru Watanabe said. Kujo Masakazu raised her whip and pointed at Toru Watanabe. The Kujo family is yours. Did you hear that? Be good in the future. Toru Watanabe turned his head and said to Miki Kujo. What did you say? Nothing, Miki, you're the second king of the world. Koen Watanabe. Kiyono Masakazu's gentle voice was full of threat. Yep. Because Mrs. Kujo ran away, you're the uncrowned king of the world. You really know how to talk. Mrs. Kiyono Masakazu nodded with satisfaction. What about me? Everyone was in a good mood because of the galloping horses. Rin Kiyono also joined in the fun of persecuting Toru Watanabe. No, this question is too difficult. Change to another one. Toru Watanabe said with a smile. That's also difficult. I'll have morning classes with Xiaoyan tomorrow. Rin Kiyono also replied with a smile. That's also not possible. Then you should go back to kindergarten. Her voice was very melodious, as if she was about to sing a song. The five people rode their horses, slowly strolling through the grassland, the forest and the river, sometimes side by side, sometimes in picturesque disorder, talking and laughing along the way. Koen Watanabe. Mrs. Kiyono Masakazu slowed down the horse to the same level as Toru Watanabe. Yes. Are you going to raise this horse in Tokyo, or just put it in Karuizawa? Karuizawa. Toru Watanabe replied. I'll come to play with it every summer. Tokyo doesn't have that much time. Then for your birthday next year, I'll buy you another one in Tokyo. Mrs. Kiyono Masakazu said. By the way, give your horse a name. King of the World. Toru Watanabe patted the horse's neck. What do you mean? Mrs. Kujo Masakazu slowed down the horse, and together with Mrs. Kiyono Masakazu caught up with Toru Watanabe. I really don't mean anything else. Toru Watanabe urged the horse's belly to catch up with the two young ladies. Still want to run? Mrs. Kujo Masakazu pulled the reins and caught up. I really don't mean anything else. Toru Watanabe hurriedly ran. A slow horse chase was staged, and the other 3 people also joined in. When it was over, the 5 people bathed their horses with a hose and fed carrots, temporarily cultivating the relationship between the owner and the horse. After riding for a day, Toru Watanabe Masakazu was fine, but the ladies' buttocks were a bit sore. But it couldn't be seen from their appearance, their posture was decent, and they looked like elegant upper-class people in Tokyo. On the way back to the villa, when there was no one in the forest, 7 or 8 jaybirds flew over the green branches. They began to talk about this matter. I haven't ridden for a long time, my buttocks hurt. Mrs. Kujo Masakazu touched her soft buttocks through her clothes. I won't feel good until tomorrow. My waist and back will hurt. Maybe my crotch will hurt too. I won't be able to walk down the stairs. Kiyono's wife was worried about more things. I'll just ride it more often. Miki Kujo recovered quickly. She looked like she was working very hard. In this quiet afternoon, only Toru Watanabe and Rin Kiyono did not join the conversation. Toru Watanabe pretended not to hear it because it was inconvenient for him to do so. As for Rin Kiyono, that night, the 2 ladies and Rin Kiyono took a long hot bath and went to bed early. In Toru Watanabe and Miki Kujo's room, the big bed replaced the lawn during the day, playing the role of a horse farm. How did you train the horse today? Miki Kujo was riding on Toru Watanabe's crotch. I can command animals with lower intelligence. Toru Watanabe stroked her beautiful waist. He was reluctant to let go. What's going on? Miki Kujo's hands were on his muscular abdomen. It's useless. I can only command animals. I definitely can't command humans, unless they are mentally retarded. Sister, don't stop. Miki Kujo lifted her buttocks and continued to ride the horse towards their destination. Her beautiful hair was as dark as night, like the undulating waves of the sea. After a while she gasped and said, Who else knows about this? Other than you, it's me. Don't tell anyone. Miki Kujo thought of something and stopped. I shouldn't have told Mother about you. It's fine if only the 2 of us know. Let bygones be bygones. Just like me at that time. I couldn't tell you these things. But now I've said everything I can. Sister, don't stop. We're still far away. Miki Kujo got off the horse and lay down. Come, I'll lie down and get comfortable for a while, she said lazily. Toru Watanabe got on the horse. After the 2 of them went back and forth from the starting line to the destination 3 times, they finally rested. They lay down and whispered to each other. With your ability, if you were in ancient times, you might be able to tame animals and become an emperor. Miki Kujo said. In bed she was so innocent and cute. Modern times are fine too. Toru Watanabe hugged her and felt the warmth between their skin. What's the use of it in modern times? Running a zoo or a circus? Maybe my ability has grown? I can command people with normal intelligence. Maybe you already have such an ability. It's good that you do. I seriously suspect that you secretly ordered me. Otherwise, why would I love you so much? I also suspect that you secretly ordered me. Then how can your ability evolve? Instead of expecting it to evolve, you might as well expect me to develop a zombie virus and turn 80% of humans into zombies. Then I can control the zombies and rule the remaining 20%. He stroked Miki Kujo's hair and continued. And the remaining 20% will live a happy life. The zombies will do all the dirty and tiring work. There will be no war, and there will be plenty of resources. Humans will only need to enjoy themselves. By unifying the world's resources, we might be able to develop an interstellar civilization. When will it be implemented? I'll fund the construction of the laboratory. Miki Kujo propped up her upper body and asked him. I have a better idea. What idea? I'll tell you quietly. Don't let others hear. Toru Watanabe pulled Miki Kujo into his arms and tucked her in. He pretended to lower his voice. I plan to start researching artificial intelligence in university and develop advanced technology. By then, the world will be ours. Can you do it? You look down on science students? I can even develop a zombie virus. At that time, I can also research holographic projection. Games like Yu-Gi-Oh!, Pokemon. I can buy the rights to the games and use holographic projection to make money. I'm talking to you about ruling the world and making money. Ruling the world also needs money. The two chatted aimlessly, which was one of the daily activities of bed life. The next day, except for the two of them and Xiaolian, everyone else started to feel sore. We're going out to play. We're going to watch the concert at Karuizawa Children's School. Did you bring your phone, wallet and water? Toru Watanabe asked. Xiaolian checked the small satchel and large water bottle on her shoulder. I brought them. After 8 o'clock, Xiaolian rode her children's bicycle and impatiently left the villa and disappeared into the woods. After Xiaolian left, Rin Kiyono found a hammock and tied it to the two chestnut trees in front of the door. She endured the pain in her body and climbed up with difficulty. She spent the whole morning reading inside. Because the two ladies were in so much pain that they didn't want to stand up. Lunch was prepared by Toru Watanabe and Miki Kujo. Toru Watanabe moved a large grill and placed it in the yard. The charcoal fire under the grill burned fiercely. Inside the grill, lamb legs, lamb chops, and some simple vegetables were roasted. While the meat was being roasted, the two ladies sat on the chairs and happily drank brandy. After nearly an hour, the meat was roasted. It was fragrant, charred, and tender. He used a knife to cut the meat along the leg bone, dipped it in cumin and other spices, and served it to the two ladies and Miss Kiyono. They chewed the meat piece by piece in their mouths and ate to their heart's content. The two ladies clinked their wine glasses with satisfaction, and the pleasant sound of glasses rang out in the woods. Rin Kiyono lay in the hammock, holding a plate, and looked at the shade and sunshine. She happily swung the hammock while eating barbecued meat, vegetables and fruits with a knife and fork. She was indescribably satisfied. After eating, she put the knife and fork on the plate and asked Toru Watanabe to take it back. She put the book on her stomach, which was still flat after eating, and closed her eyes to take a nap. They spent every day of this August leisurely. Toru Watanabe occasionally thought about Milady and the Good Plan. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.